Okay. So let's go back. So I gave my introduction. I want to also I want to acknowledge all of the all of you, of course, but especially the imams that I personally know. So Jazakumullah khair, Southern California imams. May Allah bless you. Sheikh Faqih, Sheikh Hassan, no, Taha, Sheikh Taha, and Shahid. Okay, Jazakumullah khair, barakallah feekum. I am hoping that this workshop is going to be more about the practical being in the session with your couples. That's my focus. So I'm not gonna focus a lot on giving you a lot of information about counseling and theory. That's not my goal. I also would like to invite you to share your own observations, your own concerns. Some of you, let me see actually, let me see. So I am going to invite you throughout the session, please, to interject with comments and questions. Yes, alhamdulillah, I have experience working with couples. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. However, you have a unique experience, which is you being an imam. And so that's what I would like that we bring this into the session, to make it real. Good? Is this a good, inshallah? Inshallah, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Okay. So that's the introduction. I have the agenda now. Everyone has a packet. So the first page is an agenda. Everyone, if you don't have a packet, you don't have a packet. Okay, let's see. Sorry. No. Okay, thank you. So I am very particular about maintaining time. So I will start on time and hopefully, inshallah, always try to end on time as well. And I would really appreciate your collaboration in this matter. Okay, I know some of you are leaving early, no problem. Some of you need to go and check out, no problem. You decide what you want to do. But on my end, I need to follow the schedule. Okay, and you don't need to excuse yourself. You just need leave the room if you need to leave the room, no problem. Good? We're good? Any other concerns about logistics before we start, inshallah? So we're going to go ahead and do a warm-up. So if you look in your second page, I think it's the second page. Okay, there is a page that has marital myth. Okay, so I'll just give you a minute to read through it. So now, what I'm going to invite you to do is to actually stand up, okay? And sisters, you can work together, okay? So for the imams, please stand up. Find someone in the room that you haven't connected with this conference over this weekend. Just an imam you've just passed, okay? And this is the request. I would like you to go through the marital myth and then see which ones do you believe is true and which one is false, okay? So that's the request. Is it clear on what you're going to do? Any questions about what you're doing? Any questions? You know what you're doing. Okay, I'm going to give you 5 minutes to go around and talk about the marital myth. So I need to see everyone standing and moving. Don't stay in your seat. Please move. Now? But stand up. You have to move. It's very important to move around. Yeah, that's exactly. See, I can't allow you to sleep. Okay. No, go ahead. Yes, Jazakallah khair. Take a packet back. A packet. Take one. Yeah. I'm so sorry, guys. Really sorry.
The other screen? Okay.
Alaikum salam. That's okay. Did you take a packet?
No, okay. Is that what we're doing?
Yeah.
Is this an activity?
Yeah. So they are discussing marital wish, which is on the second page. The first one. Oh, I have to have the mic. I'm so sorry. Husbands and wives should be best friends. False. 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 I'm with you. But actually, we need to tell her so she can accept the truth and then she can move on. Right? So we're just telling you about now, if you are focusing on having a good marriage, it doesn't mean you have to be best friends. That's what we're talking about. Because unfortunately, sometimes people get stuck. Okay, exactly, the expectations. Okay, myself, oh. Are we okay? Oh, mashallah. Okay. So next one. So the whole workshop today is about how can we work through this. Thank you for asking. No, I really want you to ask questions. Really want you. And I'm just going to cover the tip of the iceberg today. So, I'm just trying to cram, let's say my knowledge base and my experience into one day. So it's really, just going to give you just a tidbit, but I'm going to try. Okay, romantic love makes a good marriage. No. False. Okay? Who was it that Umar ibn al-Khattab said that households are not built on love? That's actually a truth. Okay, but again, we come back to expectations. If I'm expecting that I have to have romantic love, just like the media portrays marriage and love, then of course I'm going to be miserable. Okay? Husbands and wives should do everything together. False. I remember I had one lovely young couple. So they did the premarital counseling. Well done for them. And I highly encourage you as imams that you actually tell all of your couples, do premarital counseling. Very crucial and very important. Please, this is such an essential necessity nowadays. So anyway, so I had this couple, they did premarital and they did the full premarital. I'm so sorry, I didn't acknowledge Sheikh Ahmed Billo. He's also from Southern California. I'm so sorry. And Zahir, Sheikh Zuhair, and Sheikh Zuhair. Sorry, I'm being biased to Southern California, but I have to acknowledge all of my imams. So, barakallah fikum. So I had this young couple, and then they came after they were married for a few months, and they were a little bit struggling. Because one of their expectations was that they should be doing everything together. That once they get home, they should, and they didn't have children at that time, they were just going to sit together, look into each other's eyes, and just, just whatever the movie is saying that we're going to do. And I had to say, guys, it's okay. You guys can do your own thing. That doesn't mean you don't love each other. It doesn't mean you don't care about each other. This is life. So, okay, next one. You have to work at marriage. True. Very true. And you have to work hard in sometimes. Good spouses should make their partners happy. Absolutely yes or no? No. No, it's false. Why is it false? Because everybody is responsible for their own life, for their own happiness, for their own journey. Okay? But we should not be stuck in the idea that my spouse, and I'm sure you as imams, you get spouses, especially maybe the women, okay, that come to you and tell you, I'm not happy in this marriage. He's not making me happy. And I want you to start listening to what you are hearing in the media, how people phrase emotions, and we're going to talk about that later on, so I'm not going to go into it. But right now, this is false, okay? About that, spouses should not make their happy. Yeah. So I'm going to go back to the ayah in Surah Al-Rum, is Sakina. For me, Sakina is the key, Sakina, Mawadda, and Rahma. Okay, those are the three principles of a good marriage. So it doesn't include that he is making me happy, she is making me happy. So when the expectation is he should make me happy, is he should do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He should spend 5 hours a day with me. He should text me throughout the day. That's what I mean by he or she should make me happy. I don't know if I clarified. Did I or not really? Just. Yes. Yeah, so my objection is to the word happy and relating it to what others are doing for me. That's the objection on this sentence. It's like, yes, I can tell my spouse, okay, when I ask you to bring milk home, or on your way home, and you don't bring it, I become upset. Okay? This is very specific. When I say, oh, you're not making me happy, it's very global, right? And then you can't really work through that. So that's one of the important tips in counseling. You cannot work with a global problem. You cannot work with, I am not happy. But you can work with, what are the things that are bothering you? Okay, let's work through it. You make it specific, you can tackle it. If it's a global problem, general problem, you will answer a piece, and then you will get the statement is going to be, but he does this, he does that. So you move from one problem to another problem to another problem, and you're not doing any kind of solution, working through the problem. Does that help? Okay. So moving on, having a child will improve a bad marriage. False. Yep. Marriages should be a 50-50 partnership. No. Yes. A marriage can fulfill all of your dreams. No. True lovers automatically know each other's thoughts and feelings. False. Yep. An unhappy marriage is better than a broken home. No. It depends. It's not like completely no, completely yes. It depends on the situation. Okay, like just to give you an example, and let me make sure I'm keeping track of time. Okay, so maybe the example will come up later on. Sorry, just because we need to move. Yes. So studies, since you brought this up, studies have shown, real studies, that children will fare better under divorce rather than staying in a highly, see the word I'm using here, very highly conflictual marriage. If the husband and wife are not happy with each other or not happy with the marriage, to use but they're not fighting all the time, they can make it work for the children. And I always tell my couples, it has to work for you too. Like sometimes, couples, they eliminate themselves from the formula, from the equation. Whether, by the way, husband or wife, it's not only the wives that sacrifice. Husbands sacrifice. I have had, they broke my heart. I had husbands in sessions with me that are really sacrificing to stay in a miserable marriage where their needs are not being met, but they are staying in the marriage for the sake of their children. Breaks my heart. Same thing happens with the wives. So I always tell them, it has to work for you because children are resilient. If you both are still, and I'm not advocating for divorce here. Please, nobody leaves this room believing. I always tell my couples, I am pro-marriage because that was my experience in my own marriage. Okay, and it will come up later on. Yes. So the author, I'm using the words that the author is using. The author is using just the common words that are used in the American community and society, okay? I highly recommend that you read the book, by the way. Arnold Lazarus, Marital Myth. Next one. If your spouse wants to leave, hang on and fight. It depends. So you need to check in. Does the spouse really, really want to leave? Have they reached the point of 100% I want to leave? Then you let them go with ihsan. Okay? But if they are still kind of not sure, then you absolutely have to hang on and fight. Absolutely. If that's what you want. That and also the decision of the other spouse. Just like, who was it? The woman for the khula. She came, خلاص, she had made her decision. خلاص. It wasn't like there is room for negotiations here. So that's what we're talking about, the firmness of the decision, okay? And then you should make your spouse into a better person. No. And fight. Fight for the marriage. Like fight to make it better. Fight to keep her stay or keep him stay. Not fight, yani. But, sorry. Yes. It could be all of that. Yes, absolutely. Jazakallah khair. You should make your spouse into a better person. No, that's false too. And I hear that sometimes in premarital counseling. I get couples where, I tell them, okay, so what do you like or what do you appreciate about the other person? And they tell me they make me a better person. And when I hear that, I cringe. I don't immediately go and tell them, okay, this is wrong. I don't. But khalas, I have something in the back of my mind. I need to work on individual responsibility for the marriage and changing the expectation of, because I get sometimes husbands, they're like, oh, I want my wife to make me a better Muslim. I want her to actually wake me up for Fajr and have me make sure that I'm praying 5 prayers. That's not her responsibility. It's not also the responsibility of the husband. I'm just, okay, we still have a lot of things to say. That's a very good point. Because I have lived in the US now for 40 years, so I'm kind of disconnected. I grew up in Saudi Arabia. Okay, so that's my cultural background. I'm half Palestinian, half Egyptian, so I am culturally an Arab, but I have lived here in the US for 40 years. So sometimes when I go back to visit my family, they all tell me, Noha, you're so American right now. So my point is, I don't know right now what's happening. I hear tidbits, but I cannot say that I am aware. But I agree with you, it's an American thing, definitely, yes. How? From where? Okay. Jazakallah khair. So, So, Jazakallah khair for saying that. So, I am differentiating between the belief and expectation and the behaviors in the marriage. Okay? The whole marriage is about collaboration. Okay? Like collaboration, I'm going to help her with the dishes. I'm going to help her with cleaning the house. That's part of the marriage, right? It's not only, oh, help me, wake me up for Fajr. But the expectation or the belief, I'm marrying you, so I will become a better person, that's what I am objecting to. And we're going to talk a bit more, okay? They are. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh.
That depends. She could be accomplished. She just embraces Islam.
Uh-huh.
So that's true.
Uh-huh.
Someone who's applied Islam
Mm-hmm.
and guide her and teach her Quran, of course that's going to make her a better person.
So let's change it to I am marrying you so you can be a better helper for me. I want the individual responsibility for life journey. This is what I'm objecting to here. I am objecting on throwing the responsibility for things in life on the spouse. That's what I'm objecting to. I'm talking about the responsibility. We have an individual responsibility with Allah. We're all coming on the day of judgment alone. We're not gonna on the day of judgment say, oh, my spouse didn't do this or that. So,
this statement is actually contrary. I've seen some cases where the man, for example, he's a drug kid, they say, oh, let's keep involving him married, he will be a better person. So there's expectation. They set him in failure from the beginning.
The wife, poor thing. Yes. And that happens, by the way. So again, I am emphasizing expectations and beliefs. Did you have a question? Say again. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Jazakallah khair. Okay. Uh-huh. But Allah will question the husband. I know. But what is Allah going to question on the Day of Judgment? Did you do your responsibility? But He's not going to question, did your wife listen to you and obey you? I just want, that's what I'm talking about here. What is the individual responsibility? Because in couples, you're going to see a lot of throwing of the responsibility on the spouse. That's what we're talking about here. So be very careful. Okay? Uh-huh. Yes. Thank you. Jazakallah khair. That applies to the children too. As a parent, I have a responsibility to teach and guide. That's my responsibility. But is it my responsibility whether my child is going to follow Islam or not? No. So, okay. Last one. Opposites attract and complement each other. False or true? It depends. Sometimes the difference between the two is so great that the marriage cannot move forward. Yeah. Okay. So this was just an introduction. So let's go ahead and see what time we have, just because I need to make sure we are following the time. So our next one is at 8:50. Oh no, we're supposed to have done Imam counseling here. Okay. And we're supposed to finish it at 8:50. So that means, well, actually, about 15 minutes to go. Okay. So basically what I'm going to invite you to do is to go into groups, and we're going to answer certain questions and then come back and share. So I'm just going to give you 3 minutes in your group. So let's, I think you're getting the hint. We need to move fast, okay? So we have, why do couples come to the Imam? Okay? And then the other question is, what is unique about Imams? What differentiates you from the secular counselors or even Muslim counselors? Okay? And then the third question is, what are the Islamic guidelines that govern your own counseling? When you are doing counseling, what are the Islamic guidance that you actually depend on or lean on? So 3 questions, and I'm going to invite you to, just break down you each are going to be, each group is responsible for 1 question, okay? So can I have someone who is in charge of this question, and then some others can go and join him? Ladies, I have a question for you, but... Okay, so Sheikh Faqih, you're going to do this one? Or which question? Okay. Okay, who can be in charge of this one, guys? And then we can have a group with him or her. Him, sorry. Here, we have an Imam here. You want to take it? Okay. Okay. And we're only doing 3 minutes because you need to come back and share. Okay. Who's going to do this question? And then we have. Jazakumullah khair. Okay, so let's do it quickly, guys. Very quickly, please. Okay, if you can hear me, raise your hand, and let's come back together as a group. And we're gonna have someone from every group come and share, inshallah, biznillah. So let's begin in order. First, why do couples come? Yeah, jazakumullah khair. Why do couples come to the Imam? So who's gonna share? You're gonna share from this group? Yeah. He's already there. Let's make it efficient. Okay, alhamdulillah. Okay, I'll just hold. Yeah.
طيب.
I will hold this. Or you can hold it. Okay.
بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. There you go. طيب. So why do couples come to the imam? The first point was for solutions, for venting, as confused people they go to imams, for trust and knowledge, as an authoritative figure they go to the imam, as a leader they go to the imam. They want an Islamic solution. They want to manipulate the spouse. Sometimes spouses take advantage of that and they want to manipulate them. Number 9 is it's because it's a free service. Number 9, it's a free service that the community offers, so they choose to go to the imam. And the last we had was to better the relationship.
Excellent. And these are...
There was in Arabic, but it's the same, yeah.
Okay. Any comments from the other groups as to why do couples come to the imam? Anything you guys would like to add? Yeah. Yes. There are people. Yes, yani, I'm just going to take a moment and do say, may Allah bless you, all of you, and give you strength and patience. Because you really do carry a heavy responsibility on your shoulders. That people's expectation in the community of you are extremely high and also very hard. Very hard. And they expect you to be available 24/7, right? Like you just have to respond to their messages and phone calls and what have you. Absolutely. Yes. They don't trust the secular, or even if it's a Muslim therapist, they don't trust them, but they trust the imam. So why is it that they trust the imam, they don't trust the counselors? Yes, because of, they're worried the cultural differences, especially if non-Muslim, but even with Muslim therapists, the level of religiosity, or understanding of Islam even, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yes. So, Jazakallah, what's your name, Imam? Imam Muhammad, where are you located? Oh, mashallah, Jazakallah khair, Imam. Barakallah fiqh. I really appreciate that you are sharing with us your wisdom. Honestly, thank you. It means a lot to me in this workshop that we all collaborate. Really. Okay, because I don't have all the knowledge. You have knowledge that I don't have. So we work together. Okay? So, to Imam Muhammad's point, okay. Imams in research, okay? And I am talking, Jazakallah khair, for now it's okay. Yeah, for now it's okay, yeah. So if you go into the counseling literature, okay? The first line of defense in the Muslim community is the imams. It's documented, okay? It's not like something debated even. Everybody knows that. We go to the imam first. Was something else I wanted to say here. So I wanted to just have you keep in mind the idea that some, I'm not saying everybody, but some come because they want to use the religion as a way to put down the spouse. So they're going to come to you because you are the religious authority, and they will tell you, tell my spouse it's haram what they're doing. Okay? Tell them they have to change or else they're going to hell. So be careful. Okay? The other extreme is when you get a wife coming to you because there is dhulm in the household. And she doesn't have anyone who will speak for her. And she comes to you because she is hoping that you as an imam will actually be very assertive and say something that this is zulm. So keep in mind the two extremes. Yes? Yeah. So there are a lot of shoulds. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And yes, Jazakallah khair, Imam Muhammad. Fatwa and counseling are not the same. Okay? And so did we write that they come here for a fatwa? No, we need to add fatwa here. Because this is definitely another major reason why they come to you. Okay. And qada. Okay. And qada. Okay. طيب. They have to. What do you mean they have to? For divorce. Oh. The spouse is forcing them to come. Family, but does the court actually mandate that couples come to the imam? Okay, so let's add forced, and then you heard from different points of view about why are they forced. The spouse is forcing, or the family is forcing, or the court is forcing. Yes. Uh-huh. Okay. Yeah. Right. Jazakallah khair. Okay. We're good. Let's move on to the next one. It is, what is unique about imams? Who was in this group? What is unique about imams? Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So this question, I think a lot of our answers are going to be pretty similar to the previous one. First of all, there's a perception that we do have the answer to everything. A community trusts us for being objective, especially a lot of times when, for example, if there's a community with multiple masajid, the couple in question or the complaining spouse will oftentimes come to the imam of a different masjid than the one that they go to, just for fear of maybe things like if just being seen walking into the imam's office, just fear of rumors being spread. Yeah.
Because she doesn't believe the spouse the local imam is going to be on her side, or see her point of view.
Yeah.
That's very important. Kind of something to discuss. Okay.
And the trust that the imam does want the best for the couple, being passionate about it. Religious authority, again, that the imam will say, you need to do this, and that they'll listen. Respect for the imam and their knowledge and of course their experience. Being a community leader, that has to kind of do with that. In a lot of cases, going to the imam is like going to a member of extended family. And communicating with the imam about problems, I guess that goes with trust and bridge with communities and families, that the imam can kind of bring others together. And sometimes, since the imam officiates the marriage and solemnizes the marriage, there's maybe this perception that he can be their go-to for anything and everything related to the marriage. And also because the imam is accessible and free, as we've mentioned before. So.
Okay. Anything else you would like to add to this?
Have perfect marriages.
Imams have perfect marriages. But you said something to me yesterday. You want to share about the statistics about the divorce in imams community?
No, what I'm saying, there is a perception, community members think that the imam and his household is a perfect household. The imams practice what they preach, so therefore they're very unique. They make the best resource, for.
And I'm going to speak for the wives of the imams. This is one of the most difficult positions to have as a wife. Seriously. Because you as imams have so many demands on you that sometimes it's very hard for you to balance between your work and your family. And the wife, I heard it from, I'm going to say at least a couple. Okay, Jazakallah khair. Yeah, or I'll put it here so you have your space. I heard it from a couple of sisters who are married to imams, is that they see themselves as single mothers because the fathers are so busy with the community. So, sorry? No, بس يعني. But this is, a word of, I don't know what the word to tell you, but maybe just like just a gentle nasiha. Very gentle nasiha. Very, very gentle. It's very important to make sure you're putting time into also your family. And that's not only your wives, it's also the children. Sheikh Faqih, mashallah, yesterday we had a chat, lovely chat, and he was talking about how much time he's spending with the children. Now, if you as imams are not influencing your own households, that's going to be miserable for you. So you need to preach, you need to practice what you preach. Please, please, please put time into your marital relationships, please, and into your parental relationships. May Allah bless you and give you barakah and give you barakah in your families and in your children. So you don't, like the hardest struggle for a devout practicing Muslim parent is seeing your children deviating from the path. And we are seeing this. Okay, and we're seeing it also in the children of imams. So you're not immune. So it doesn't mean even if you're putting time into your family that your children may not choose that path, but at least you will have the peace of mind and the peace of heart that you have done your part. That's all. I had a father one time, he came to me and he wasn't an imam, but anyway, he's complaining about his son is doing something, whatever, I don't remember what was it that he was doing. And then I was like still in the beginning of my counseling career. So I said, oh, you must be feeling guilty. Because typically parents are feeling guilty about what the children, and he responded to me, he said, no, I'm not feeling guilty. I said, why? And he said, because I did my part. That's beautiful. To have someone be able to differentiate between what they are responsible to do and the results in other people. Okay, I sometimes derail a lot. I'm so sorry. Okay, so the next question. What are the Islamic guidelines that govern your counseling? So, okay. Okay. Can you tell me from which country you come? Like your accent.
Oh, I'm from Guinea Conakry.
Oh,
yeah. Thank you. Shukran. Okay, what are the Islamic guidelines that govern your counseling? As an imam, you just put taqwa first, which is the book of Allah and the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
That's your taqwa.
Yes.
That's the taqwa in everything you're doing.
Yes.
I'm just highlighting it.
Yeah, that is very important because sometimes people complain when you go to the imam, they take sometimes some side because they have relation with, the person. Sometimes they can be influencers in the community who are putting a lot of money in the masjid. And all this can happen. So you just need to know your responsibility. Even if your boss or the board of the president of the board, if he came with his wife, you got to put taqwa of Allah. And do not burn yourself to please someone else. I think it's very important. Ameen, ameen. I know, I remember one day, we having some young couple, when they have issues, when the woman is called to go to the imam, they refuse. Because in our culture, in African culture, always they said, even you go for issues, they talk between you, but they said always the woman don't have rights over his husband. So you got to always apologize. And when they have this in mind, always they're thinking, if you are an imam, you're only taking, the man's side. Just block them sometime from going, and they can be in many things that then take them away. So as an imam, you need to really understand it and have taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And secondly, like in Saudi Arabia, when it's come to family marriages, it's not part of fatwa, it's justice, it's qada. And when it's come to qada, it's always to establish the justice, but listen from both sides. Because if it's fatwa, because most of the time we have a problem with this, someone come, oh, my wife is doing this, and we say, no, he's wrong. But this always is not fatwa. When it's come to marriage issues, it's qada. Don't judge, because sometimes they call you over the phone, even sometimes the woman. Or some call you, oh, my husband is doing this and all this, oh, so this is not right, this is not, a good husband. But you didn't listen to the other side. And you give fatwa. And she's going to take from me, even the imam said this, while it's not a reality. So when it's come to family issues, it's always justice. And justice to be established, must listen for both sides. And we know what happened to Dawood. So you got to listen from the woman's side and the man's side and see what you can do. So secondly, we're going to look sometime on benefit and harm in the relationship, see, okay, what is the benefit of staying together and what the harm that can cause sometime. And based on these, you give them the nasiha, because you cannot force them, but you can give them nasiha. From what I see, this is what is going on, and then I will advise you first, both of you always is taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because if Allah said, وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ الَّذِي تَسَاءَلُونَ بِهِ وَالْأَرْحَامِ, if you showing taqwa toward your wife, don't look at your wife, look at Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one who, make this relationship halal, and also the spouses. I think this can always, make the relationship much better. If we both parties showing the taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, remembering this is for the sake of Allah. So then give them the advice, then, because you cannot, force none of them, to do whatever. And we said to give the confidentiality also to the imam. When you come in, they giving you, don't go outside talking what's going on in the other families, because it's a amana. Wal mustasharu mu'taman. And the last part is sometimes it becomes some situations you cannot take care of. You just refer them to an expert who can, take care of the situation. If you are not able, don't just try to do it because you're there. But if you don't, okay, I'm not, because sometimes it's not all the imam, I'm sorry for that, but it's not all the imam who are capable of taking care of this. Because I was saying it's qada. And if you don't have the skills on making judgment, we have rules when it comes to qada. Like them, al-bayyinatu al-mudda'i wal-yaminu ala man ankar, and all these aspects that you need to go through. If you're not able to, because they come to me and the imam and just jump into it, refer them to someone who are, have the experiences and to take care of it. So that's we had, inshallah. Jazakallah khair.
Jazakallah khair. This is the summary of the whole workshop. Yes. This is, I'm just going to talk about other things, but if we look at how can you summarize your role as an imam in couples counseling, this is it. Sincerely appreciate how succinct and focused it is. Who was, yes, Imam Muhammad. Yes. Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
No physical contact, no exclusion, that has to be, at the same time, the imam has to know meditation.
Right.
So I make it clear, I try to help you, to guide you,
Mm-hmm.
at the end, I cannot impose you to do what you
Exactly.
cannot decide on your behalf.
Exactly.
It's like a general rule, but it's not specific for them.
No, we're coming to the specific counseling later on. But this is very important. I really would like you to keep this in mind as your own area of expertise. This is what a counselor, secular, Muslim or non-Muslim, cannot do. Okay? This is very unique about you guys. So that is very important to keep in mind. Yeah. I think someone else had their hand up. I can't remember. No, on this side, no? We're done here? Okay. Yes. by the sequence, okay? You want to change the sequence. Okay, but it's okay. It's okay. Don't worry about the sequence, but we can arrange it anyway. Yes. 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 Because that's the source of taqwa. Or, yeah. Yes. Okay, guys. Okay, we do not need to disagree on that. It's okay. It's okay. Each one of you can figure out the order, but these are the important points. Yes. Jazakallah khair. Okay. So we're going to hear from the sisters now. So the sisters are going to share with you some of what they hear from the sisters in the community about when the sisters go approach imams. Who would like to say? You're gonna. Okay. Bismillah.
Bismillah. Assalamu alaikum. The imam is biased to the brothers.
This is the number one complaint.
Yeah.
The imam is biased. Yeah. And I'll be very honest with you.
Towards the brothers.
Towards the husband. Towards the husband.
Towards the brothers.
So,
Sorry.
Okay, we're not saying it's necessary. We're just saying what are the concerns we as sisters, okay? We hear from the sisters in the community, and it's very important for you to hear that, okay? So yesterday even, during the weekend, there were some moments where I actually sensed that. Where I sensed that there is some dismissal, if you will, of the woman's rights. So just be aware. That's true. Don't dismiss what we're saying and say we're emotional, we react, we're not logical, all of that misconceptions about women, okay? So please keep it in your mind. What else?
They dismiss the emotional aspect.
Okay. There we go. Okay.
They don't take their claims serious because of the relationship with the brothers, or they know that he's a good guy, he comes to Salah and stuff, so they don't take their claims to be serious.
So yesterday, I think it was yesterday, there was a question about the taharrush between the father and the daughters, the 3 daughters. I was very upset. I'm just sharing with you from a counseling point of view. It's not enough to just give nasiha to the father and give nasiha to the daughters. As imams, I'm really sorry, okay? You're gonna find out I'm very passionate about certain issues. But if you have someone coming to you and telling you there is taharrush, you need to do something about. I'm not saying go report to the society or whatever authorities. I'm not saying that. I had a case where a mother came to me talking about her own son, 15 years old, going into the room of his sister, okay, and removing the blanket and just, trying to look at her, whatever. So I didn't report, and I am a mandated reporter. I didn't report. However, I told her, your daughter has to lock her door. She has to lock the door at night. That's what I'm talking about. We need to be very, very assertive about what needs to happen in the family. It's not enough to give nasiha, please. I hope you get the message. Okay, what else? Yeah.
The cultural backgrounds of some imams. So if it's okay in their country or in their culture that they treat women certain way, they think they dismiss the sister's claim of certain things like, oh, that's normal, it's okay, but they don't understand the difference of the culture in the society. And finally, the privacy. They make their story shareable by mentioning it at certain things, and then the sister
in the
find
khutbah.
out. Yeah.
I was a witness of that. I had a client come to me and she's very upset with our local imam. None of the imams who are here, by the way, another imam, okay? Just so nobody thinks about our lovely imams here. But a local imam heard their story on the minbar, shared some details of the story that you know exactly what he's talking about. Like, I'm not saying you cannot share things on the minbar. You can, but make it vague. Don't share a very unique story that in the community, the congregation, oh yeah, this is Khalid and Abu Khalid, yeah. Please, yani. Did we, yeah? Okay. And one thing I'm going to add to what sisters complain about, and this is when I first came to before I even became a counselor, the common complaint I heard from sisters was, I go to the imam with my husband and share the story, and the imam tells us, sister, be patient. That's it. Sister, be patient. And then they leave feeling frustrated and upset because it's not only about patience. They need more. Yeah. Yes, imam didn't listen to me. Yeah, absolutely. I'm coming to you.
So something that we mentioned when it comes to this feeling that some sisters have about gender bias, I guess, is that obviously in the marriage, the man is the head of the household. So sometimes the advice is going to be that he's in charge and you need to listen and stuff like that. But all she's seeing is a man telling her that. And so she's feeling like he's biased. So what would you advise in that situation where it is a man advising a woman to listen to another man and it's being received as bias, but it might not necessarily be bias?
So hopefully we'll cover this in the rest of the counseling skills. So I'm not going to answer now, okay? Brother, Imam, yes. You know what? I would have confronted the father. I would have actually, if the girls, the three girls are willing to actually be in the same session with the father and have them talk to him and tell him what he did. This is very hard. This is very hard work. But you know, part of the problem in our community, and I don't want to take too much time, but part of the problem in our community is the two parties are not actually facing each other in the same room. And they want others to fight their battles for them. And that, I think that's wrong. So anyway, I would do that, okay? Let's assume the girls don't want to do that, okay? Then I would get the details of what happened from the girls, have a session with the father and say, this is what we got from your daughters, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? And this is zulm. This is ta'addi. This is abuse. You just have to be very assertive and use strong words with people in the session. Okay? And then the girls, they need to be told how to protect themselves. They have to. We have to. So that's why, you know, during this weekend, there was a lot of talk about the imams doing investigation. Okay, so you do your investigation. You do your due diligence, okay? You sit down and hear what are the stories, okay? What is it saying? If it's only truly, I'm hugging and I'm kissing, okay, that's a different story than he came into the room when I'm sleeping, he went into bed with me, and he, you know, started taking my clothes off. This happens, by the way. I mean, really, I don't want you to think that fathers are not abusing their daughters. It's happening. So please be careful. So, you know, okay? I'll take these two, and then I think we are over time also. Yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yes. Yes. Not dismissed. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Objective. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, you're right. Yes. I agree with you. But you know what struck me in this situation? We have 3 girls. It's not one. And I want you to know, I mean, Kids actually love their parents. Just think about what happened in this household to the degree that the daughters are accusing their father of that. Something is wrong. Something has broken in the relationship. Like a couple of weeks ago, I visited a family, a close relative of my husband, and my heart melted. They have 4 girls. My heart melted at how the father was treating his daughters. Just gentleness, love, appreciation. You could feel it. Like, do you think these 4 girls would accuse their father of that? They would not, because the bond is there. And they love and they appreciate. So I'm just saying that if it comes to the degree where we're accusing a father of something, something is really wrong here. And we need to do our due diligence. Okay, so you had your hand up, Imam. Uh-huh. Yeah, you're right. Yes. Uh-huh. Yes. 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 Jazakallah khair. And it goes back to what was on this page, which is when you know it's really above what you can handle, please refer out. Please, please, please refer out. Okay. Uh-huh. No, you first begin individually, okay? Especially with the person who's accusing, okay? And then you move on. I really recommend that they are all together in the session at some point, after you hear from both sides. However, sometimes they don't agree, okay? So, but yes, you hear individually, then you combine them together, and then you move on with. Yeah, that's fine. So that's part of why they come to counseling too. Sometimes they just want to come to vent. They don't want a solution.
Especially in cases like this.
No. Cases like taharrush, it's not enough to be venting.
So what do you do if they say, no, I don't want to do it?
Okay, you focus on, are people safe? Number one priority is the person safe? If you need to do something about safety, have to, okay? Whatever is under your control. Even if it's like something like, okay, sisters, okay, you told me that your father comes at night and so on. You need to lock your door at night. And they tell you, no. And you see, I'm going to use the word responsibility a lot in this workshop. You're going to say, if you choose, I'm going to use choice and responsibility because we all have choices and we all have responsibilities. If you choose not to lock the door to your bedroom, what could happen? So she's going to say, whatever she says, right? And then you say, are you okay with that? And she said, I prefer that over that. And you say, okay. So what you have done is you have worked the person through the reality, the choices, and then the decision that they are going to make that they will be responsible for. In my situation, I have to report, okay? But as I told you in this case that I shared with you, I didn't report because there wasn't really, for example, penetration, okay? And I felt that it was still early and preventable, so I didn't want to make, and I could get in trouble because of that, okay? But I made a choice as a Muslim therapist that I am working, I care about the family, what's going on with the family, but I told the mother, I told her, your daughter has to lock the, and you know what the mother also did? She had a camera in the room. You see what I'm talking about? Is you really deal with the reality and you come up with practical, effective solutions. Good? Okay. We are over time. Is it important?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
So in this case, for example, they come to the imam and they complain. For example, you call the father and say, this is private, but you don't have a certificate. So if it's happened that the daughter, for example, I call the police and they said, I called the imam,
Uh-huh. So I think you as imams actually are not obligated to report. That's my understanding. I heard that from several imams. Am I correct?
It depends on the state.
Okay. It depends on the state?
Yeah. It depends. Some states, imams are mandated reporters if it's an under age child or, yeah.
Okay, so I don't know. This is where you guys need to know the laws of your states and country and whatever, right? Okay. Did someone else have their hand up here? Yes. Oh, mandated, a mandated reporter. Mandated means that there are certain familial situations or that you have to report to social services. So in my situation, if there is any kind of child abuse, okay, and let me be, whether sexual, and we're talking sexual and physical, okay, emotional is not reportable, okay, and verbal is not reportable. But physical and sexual are both reportable. However, let me be very clear, the physical abuse that is reportable is not spanking. Like parents are allowed, they're given permission to spank their children. But if they spank in such a way that leaves a mark, that's reportable. If they spank in such a way that they use something hard or harsh, that's reportable. Okay? And let me also add, from me as a therapist, let's assume a husband beats his wife. That's not reportable unless that is happening in front of the children. That's when it's reportable. But if a husband is beating his wife behind closed doors, that's not reportable. Doesn't matter harm or not harm, it's kind of like in the law, he can do that. طبعا, of course it's not right, but I'm just talking about the reportable, that's a different story. But sorry? It's allowed within the law that he can beat her up, but I don't have to report, okay? I'm not responsible to report. Okay, I don't have to report because he beat her up, okay? She can go and file a complaint with the police and have a restraining order and go to court. She can do all of that stuff, but it's up to her, okay? Yeah. Okay, reportable. No, it happened. It happened, actually. Reportable. I had cases where the wife, was taken to jail. In the Muslim community. Yeah, exactly. So it's reportable. Sheikh Faqih.
No, I was just saying that I think if one, especially in the case of a wife being beaten, if she reports that to the imam, I think the imam is obligated to morally, not legally, to make sure that to ensure her safety and to give her the proper advice or inform her family. And advise her. I personally would tell her to call the police.
Yes.
So just moral obligation, yeah.
And would you call the husband and say your wife came and complained about you, or you wouldn't do that? You wouldn't do that. Unless she wants you. And there is a reason and hikmah in that. Because we don't know. Imam calls the husband, tells him, wow, your wife did that. Husband goes home, and he can do even more harm. Okay, yeah, Sheikh Ahmed. Mm-hmm. Just raise your voice. If it's behind doors and not in front of the children. if it's in front of the children. The condition is it has to be in front of the children. That's the condition. For me. Yeah. So this comes back to your kind of like counseling judgment or counseling sense. Like you have to kind of weigh things. And so sometimes I hear, for example, they are in the counseling session and they're talking, oh, I don't know, he hit me, he pushed me, something like that. I don't go into asking for details, okay? I don't go and ask, did this happen in front of the children or not? That's what I do, okay? Because once I know it happened in front of the children, I have to report, okay? So sometimes, because, sometimes couples actually know the law. So they come in the session and make sure that I know that it happened in front of the children. Because they want me to report, okay? Or they very, very clearly from the beginning, they say, we had an argument and it happened with the same couple because they had a fight in front of the children. I told them, guys, I have to report. I reported. Social services came. They didn't go to them, but they looked at my report and they said, okay, we documented that in the system. Right now, we're not going to do anything, okay? First instance, and we're just going to, wait and see. Many years later, this is a couple that I have worked with for at least 16 years. I started working with them when they were pregnant with the second child. And they just filed for divorce last year. And I'm just giving you this as an example of you just do your part, okay? Because you don't know. So anyway, this couple, before the wife filed for divorce, she said we had an argument and the children were not there. She told me from the beginning, before she even described the argument, just so I know that we're not going to report here. So, to your point, So I tend to aim towards not reporting unless it's really kind of like clear like the sun. That's when I go and, I remember one time also I had a teenager who was also complaining about her father hitting her, okay? And so I brought him in. They were all in the room. They came all to the office, and then so I heard her, listen to her, and so on. And then I decided I'm not going to report that. Okay, and then I brought the father in, and I said, "This is what your daughter said. This is extremely wrong, Islamically, legally, and morally, and everything. And you need to stop doing that. Otherwise, you are going to be reported. And once you're reported, we don't know what's going to happen to the family." So that's one case where it was actually clear that he actually hit her. It wasn't like an if or but or something. But I chose not to report. I try to minimize the disruption within the family unless it's really better to disrupt the family. So I answered your question. Okay, can I check the time? Because, I think we are, mashallah, we missed already a couple of things. I just want to make sure we finished, this section. We are at almost 9:30. So if you look at the schedule, we were supposed to talk about a good enough counselor and perception. So I'm going to omit perception, and hopefully it will come up in an activity we're going to do, inshallah, later on in the afternoon. However, I just want to ask you a question here. Think about a person in your life, okay, that you trust. Just think of that person. It doesn't need to be a counselor by profession. Just someone you trust. Someone you go to when you have a problem. In my life, one of the most important people I trust in my life is my father. May Allah bless him. I mean, I don't know why. I mean, my heart melts about the relationship between fathers and children just because of what I had in my life. May Allah bless him. My father is a very special man. He's not famous. He doesn't have high degrees, but he's an amazing father. And let's keep this in mind. You don't need to have highest degrees. You don't need to be famous or well known to be the best father. That's my father. So I go to my father more than my mother. And I am a daughter, okay? So there are reasons why I go to my father more than my mother. There are reasons, okay? I love my mom dearly too. But something in my father just gets me to go there. So I want you to think of who is that special person in your life that you go to because you trust him or her. And think and go ahead and write down, okay, what are, let's say, 3 or 5 characteristics of that particular person. I'm just going to give you a minute to write it down. Okay. I'm going to check with you. Did any of you write the word listener? Yes. Sorry? The first thing. How many of you wrote the word listener? Okay. I want you to know, in all the research about the effectiveness of counselors, okay, well, they do a lot of research about how well we do our work. And there are about 200 plus counseling and psychological theories. 200 plus. That's a lot, okay? There are 200 plus counseling and psychological theories, okay? So they were trying to see, like, okay, which one is more effective? So they check into that, and they check into what is the counselor doing and the therapy. The number one effective factor in whether a counseling relationship is going to be effective or not is the relationship between the client and the therapist or the counselor. And what characterizes this relationship? Okay, it's listening. Okay, having what they call a positive regard, meaning, if we translate it, it would mean that there is respect. So listening, respecting the person in front of you, no matter who they are. Okay. And just being attuned. So 3, listening, respect, okay, and also being attuned with whoever with you in the session. So keep these in mind. And if you have these 3 with you in your counseling sessions or imam, whatever sessions, you're doing exactly what you need to do. Yes? Attuned is exactly what Imam Muhammad did. Maybe you weren't here okay, so basically I was talking about how, to give you the example, it happened today, this morning. I was talking about how I need a clip-on mic because I keep moving. I don't sit, I don't stand, in one spot. And then Imam Muhammad, I said that. Okay, so Imam Muhammad looked at the brother who's responsible of AV, and he said, she needs a clip-on mic. I didn't say I need a clip-on mic in front of him, but he deducted. So he listened, figured out my need, so he was with me. He got me. So attunement is being able to see and hear the person in front of you without any kind of judgment or layers of prejudice and misperception. Does that answer? Excellent. Okay. Imam Taha. Listen. Attunement. I'm with you. I'm seeing you. I'm hearing you. I'm getting you. I get what you're telling me. So it's more of okay, I'm listening to you. I'm staying with you. I'm not having an agenda in my mind. Okay? I'm not going oh, okay, the sister here is complaining about her husband. Okay, she must be highly emotional. That's not attunement. It's not focusing. No. You can focus, but you can still also have your own judgment of what's going on. Yeah. It's neutral, but also getting what the other person. It's a higher level of neutral. Yes, it's not simply neutral. Yeah.
Characterize it by being aware, receptive, without having preconceived notions or prejudice.
Did you all hear him? Yeah. Okay. Very good. Thank you. Jazakallah khair. Uh-huh. So that's right, but there's another layer of having empathy. It's empathy. It's emotional intelligence. It's having empathy for the person in front of you, no matter what they have done. Like even having empathy for the husband who beats his wife, even though you are going like, oh, how could he? This is so un-Islamic, but still having empathy that this is a human being in front of you who is in pain. So I hope I cleared. Yes? Yeah. The road to hell is paved with good intentions, which means that yes, yes. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, thank you. Okay. Yes. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. So I'm going to try my best. I'm going to really try my best. Okay. So, mashallah, we have a large population here. So can I have it with you? Well, you're going to say something. Maybe it's not on.
I just want to, one other characteristic that I added on, for me personally, the people that I go to for counsel is their distance, and that they're not anywhere located within the problems of my life. So, I feel like, usually if I have issues, I call someone that's a few hundred miles away, and, I feel like I can have that private space and connection with them.
So that touches on the idea of you need to trust the person. Like for me, when I go to my father is highly involved in my life. And when we had marital problems, I would complain to my father, may Allah bless him. And so he sat us both, me and my husband, and talked to us both. Okay, so he's very highly, but the issue here is I trust him. I trust what he's going to do. I trust what he's going to say. So he's close to me. And that's why I do it. For some people, they need that trusted person to be away from them or not involved in the direct circle. It's just to your point. Yeah. Okay. Let's go ahead and take a deep breath. And we are going to go ahead and start going into what we call in psychology the private logic. Private logic means understanding how people look at things, and based on how they look at things, the decision they make to behave. Okay, so that's in your handouts. I don't know which page. 5. It's page 5. So I'm going to invite you to go ahead and work with me. So think about the last week and think of a situation that happened during the last week. Please don't choose something big and huge and hard, okay? Choose something simple, just to make the point, okay? So have this in your mind and describe it in a title, like a small sentence that gives a name to what happened. And this would be the event. So the event is right here. So you write next to it, what's the title of this event that happened over the last week? I'll give you a minute. Sorry? Oh, okay. This theory, this is coming from the Adlerian School of Psychology. And the founder of this theory was a colleague of Freud, but he actually differed with Freud on human nature, which is very good for us. I personally ascribe to this particular theory because I find it aligning with Islam. That's to me, the foundation is Islam. So I'm going to accept anything that aligns with Islam, reject anything that doesn't align with this. This one aligns with Islam. And this model that you are going to actually, right now we're going to go through, is by one of my mentors, and his name is Wes Wingett. So what's the goal from this exercise is for you to understand how we think, perceive, and make decisions. That's the goal from this exercise. So go with me, work with me. And in the first rectangle, write the word event. And next to it, go ahead and write a name, a title for the event that happened over the last week. Any event, but please don't choose a big event. For example, don't choose that, someone died in your life. Please, some small event. Thank you. We're going to go to this at the end. Okay, thank you. Okay, so let me give you an example. Let's just assume, last week you were driving on the highway and someone hit you. That's an event. Okay?
It's not something that you did, it's something that happened to you.
Something that happened to you. Absolutely. Thank you for clarifying. Yeah. And don't complicate things. It's really very simple. It could be, for example, that you went to get lunch yesterday and you found that there were no lunch left. It was out. That's a simple event. Okay? Yeah. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, it can be a positive. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. No. No. Thank you. Thank you, Sheikh Faqih. No, it has to be real. Cannot be fictional. Oh, that is so funny. Okay, so according to the Adlerian School of Psychology, events happen in our life. We tend to label events as positive or negative, but that is actually not a true assessment, okay? Because what determines events is how we think about them. So events happen, and then they lead to us thinking about them in a specific way. So I would like you to go ahead and write down what were your thoughts related to the event that you titled or gave a name. Thoughts are sentences. Everything. So as long as you're writing a sentence, you have a thought. So just write whatever comes to your mind. Yes, about the event. So these thoughts were triggered by the event. Okay, next. Thoughts trigger emotions. So next to the emotions, I'm going to invite you to write single words that describe emotions. If you're writing a sentence, you're not writing emotions. You're writing thoughts. So emotions, examples of emotions are sad, happy, fearful, joyful. What is it? Humiliation, annoyed, strong. I feel strong, confident. Yeah. So there are about 225 words in the English language for emotions. Okay? So they are, we're going to talk about them a bit more also after the break. But here, you need to write single words. If you're writing sentences, you're writing thoughts. As much as is related to the event. And you can have conflicting feelings or emotions about the event. They don't need to all align. Next, thoughts and emotions that were triggered by the event are going to lead to a decision. And decision takes one of two forms: a behavior or an action, and secondary thoughts. So I'm going to give you a minute to write down, what did you do in response to this event? Did you take action or no action? Did you go into secondary thoughts? Yeah, we'll just, just give me, yeah, I'll explain this a bit more, but I want you to catch what you came up for you. No, the decision is one of those, yes. And it could be both, by the way. So it doesn't necessarily one or the other. It could be both. Okay. Now, let's talk about secondary thoughts for a little bit. If a person goes into secondary thoughts, there are two types of secondary thoughts. There are negative secondary thoughts, and those are the red arrow. And there are, and listen carefully, they're not positive. They are realistic secondary thoughts, and that's the green arrow. So the negative will actually complicate the situation or complicate the response to the event and make it even worse, okay? While the realistic will actually help with containing the situation. You're with me so far? Did I lose anyone? People who struggle with depression and anxiety are in an endless loop of thoughts. They're not necessarily taking action or good action that helps the situation. Did everyone get this one? That's very important. So people who are struggling with depression and anxiety are in an endless loop of thoughts, and they are negative thoughts. They are just consumed by negative thoughts. You with me? Okay. So secondary thoughts, we go back here to this rectangle, and then we go down. Okay, so if they were actually realistic thoughts, then what happens is they actually help with the situation. You have a better response to the situation. You with me so far? Okay, just reflect on this for a little bit.
Yeah, they go to another project for what do you want?
They can do it now if they want. Yeah, okay. Yes. Endless loop. Yani vicious cycle. Endless loop of negative thoughts. So they're stuck. They're basically stuck, and they are stuck in their thinking. Yeah, dawama, yeah. Yeah. Oh, okay, I need to remove this. Okay, thank you. Appreciate you. Yeah. Okay, now let's come to what's this one here? Like the Sheikh was asking. Yeah. This one here is basically what we call, life beliefs. Now, life beliefs could include religious components, but not necessarily. So what do we mean by life beliefs? As a therapist, when I am in the session, I am really checking into what does the client in front of me, what do they believe about the following? I am, others are, the world is, therefore I must. Now, every single human being on this earth will answer these 4 statements or these 4 prompts in their own unique way. And the way they think or believe about themselves or about others or about the world and whatever they have come up with as this is what I need to do in order to survive and thrive, this is the belief system, okay, for their psychology, okay? This will impact how they think about the event. You're with me? This is the source. And this begins or kind of like is formulated by the age of 5. And it's very unconscious for the child, of course, right? But we begin to see the impact of this unconscious belief in how they behave with life, how they behave with other people. So you need the first 5 years for this to become formulated. Because the child, what's happening in the first 5 years is things are happening in the child's life, correct? So the child sees something, an event. Then he thinks about it in his or her own unique way and comes up with their own theory about why did this happen. So let me give you an example. Let's assume we have a child, and this goes back even to the first year of life or the first 2 years of life, which are extremely important. And right nowadays we are really dismissing the significance of having a stable connection between the infant up to 2 years with one primary caregiver. So that primary caregiver could be the mother, could be a nanny, could be anyone, but that child needs stability in the first 2 years of life. And that reminds you of how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about 2 years in the Quran when it comes to children. It's very fascinating to me that there are certain things that are mentioned in the Quran, and we just take it as, Allah said that, oh, okay. But then you learn, and then you go like, Subhanallah. So for any of you who have come across attachment theory in relation to children, and I'm not going to go into it, it speaks about the first 2 years of life. What's the quality of the bond between the child and the primary caregiver? So if it's a strong bond, if it's a good bond, then that child is most probably going to grow up with the idea, I am safe, I'm capable, I am loved, I am competent, others are helpful, others are loving, the world is good, okay? Therefore, I must collaborate, okay? Or therefore, I must, what else can they be? I must work hard. Whatever it is, everybody comes up with their own theory about how they need to navigate life. Now, compare that to someone who didn't have that stability in their life, and then you end up with, I am not loved. I am not seen. Others are harsh. Okay? The world is not safe. Okay? Therefore, I must trick others. Therefore, I must manipulate others. Therefore, I must be the, the clown. Or I must make everyone around me laugh or be funny. Everyone comes up with their own theory. Okay? Now, this theory works for them when they are children. It becomes a problem when they become adults. Then they start clashing with other people in their lives. You're with me? Did I lose anyone? Okay, and we have a couple of more minutes to go before break. So let me give you a quick example here. Okay, let's assume the event is someone cut me on the freeway. And let's assume we have Ahmed He's the one who's driving the car. Someone cut him on the freeway. Ahmad's way or theory of the world, I must be number one for whatever reason. Okay? So his thought is, how could he cut me off? How dare he cut me off? Okay? No one can cut me off. Then the emotions are anger, fury, okay? The decision could be, I'm gonna cut him off because no one can beat me. That's an example. Let's take the same event. Someone cut you off on the freeway, and now we have Khaled. Khaled, who has a theory of, I must collaborate with others. Someone cut him off, he's gonna think, oh, I wonder what's happening to this guy. He must be really rushing to do something, whatever, right? His emotions are going to be neutral, calm, we're not angry. No? Understanding is just like having some empathy for the other person. His decision is going to be, I'm not going to cut him. He's not even going to think of cutting him off, correct? And also at the same time, he's going to forget about it in a second because it didn't really trigger something that clashes with his worldview or what he needs to do in order to survive and thrive. And this is the basis of what you're dealing with in couples therapy. You are dealing with two different theories about how we need to deal with life. And that's where the clash happens between the couples. Okay?
So should they drive together before they get married?
That's who's asking that? Okay, you know, actually, there is a couple that broke off specifically because they went to return something to the store, and the woman was shocked at how the husband was behaving with the clerk. She's like, what is this? And she deducted that most probably this is going to happen in my life with him. And she wisely, very wisely, decided to break it off. That's why I actually, when couples come to me and talk about long-distance relationships, I said, please, you need to meet in person. Okay? You need to see how this person behaves in the restaurant. How do they deal with waiters, waitresses, and clerks? Because, the reaction to these random daily life situations is really going to give you a clue into what is the theory about life. And it's 10 a.m. I'm going to see you at 10:15. I'm going to start at 10:15. Please be on time. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum. So inshallah, we're going to go ahead and start. As you can see, I underestimated the time for many segments. So inshallah khair. We're going to go ahead and move to emotional regulation, which is a major problem in the American society, unfortunately. Okay? So just to remind you, this is the model here. Okay? Events trigger thoughts, thoughts trigger emotions, and emotions, they trigger a decision. And the decision is either or both behavior or secondary thoughts, okay? And we said we have two types of secondary thoughts. We have negative, and those are the basis of depression and anxiety. And then we have the realistic thoughts, which are the thoughts that actually help with the situation. They help with the effective handling of the situation. We're going to go ahead and focus on emotions right now because it's a huge problem in the American community. Okay? We have a misunderstanding of how to deal with emotions. So it's one of my passions, is like really teaching people how to handle emotions in a better way. Inshallah, bismillah. And let me just make sure the time. Okay, so we're supposed to finish at 10:45. Okay, inshallah. Okay, if you look on page number 6, this is the first page addressing emotions. We're not going to cover all of them, but they are there for you, so you can, some of them might be helpful for you. But let's focus on the first page. So I encourage everyone to, whenever we talk about emotions, to recognize that there are 3 simple steps of how we need to deal with emotions, okay? The first one is identifying emotions. Just identifying it, knowing what kind of emotion is actually going on. How many of you have seen the movie Inside Out? Okay. Very important movie. And I highly recommend that you actually recommend it to your people, whoever is in the counseling session with you, whether couples or individual. It's a movie that is actually based on psychological science. They actually consulted with a psychologist before they actually did it. Now, sorry? There is 2. I didn't see number 2 yet, but number 1 is very powerful. And for those of you who saw number 1, I don't know if you recall the scene where they take you inside the brain of the child and they show you different islands in the brain of the child. So this is exactly what we were talking about here, which is how we are creating the belief about the world. So the child had different beliefs, okay, represented by different islands in his brain, or her brain, sorry, and they collapsed. The islands collapsed when something happened in the family, and then she ran away, okay? Then it starts building again after there is a repair. So I want to emphasize that even Inside Out, it's a Disney movie. Again, I want to also, I didn't mention this earlier. Let's assume you had a child who have a negative view of the world, a negative worldview. That doesn't mean the end of the world. People can change. Okay? So we're not stuck. And that's what I love about the Adlerian School of Psychology. They're not like Freud, believing that your past determines your present and their future. No. In Adlerian School of Psychology, your past informs or sheds light on what you're behaving now, and maybe once you understand it, you can change your future. You with me? Okay. Is that what I wanted to say? Okay, so anyway, so coming back to emotional integration. First step is identify. As you can see on page number 6, there are 6 major or basic categories of emotions based on the work of a psychologist out of San Francisco. He actually looked at different cultural groups to see what are the universal categories of emotions. It's not dependent on language. And he did really a beautiful study that I'm not going to go into right now, but he came up with there are 6. These are the 6 basic categories of emotions. Each one of them has shades. Like for joy, you can have many words that describe joy. Okay? And same thing applies to all of them. Any questions about the 6 basic emotions? Categories of emotions. Any question about that? Yes? Has a what? None of them need to be persistent. No. Highly, yeah. But the extreme of surprise is shock, which is, for example, what's happening in Gaza. I'm just saying. Yeah. Disbelief, يعني. But and then it has so many different gradients, if you will. It's on a spectrum. So yeah, yeah. استغراب. Okay. أو العالي تبعه هو إنه أنا مصدوم، الصدمة، الشعور بالصدمة. تمام؟ Okay. Any other questions about the 6 basic categories of emotions? We're good? Okay. So in the next page, and this is for you, yes. Sorry? I can't hear you, I'm so sorry. You missed the introduction for this exercise. Is there someone who can repeat what I said? Who's willing? Okay, thank you.
So we were talking about how there are certain categories of emotions under which there are several, gradations. All of the 6 that are mentioned here may occur on a spectrum, but generally emotions will fall under these 6 categories, and it's important to identify the emotions. And we also spoke a little bit about how this is coming from a psychological theory, which believes that those core beliefs are things that can be changed later in life. Yeah.
And I'm just going to add that the first step in emotional integration is identifying what is the emotion that's going on in this moment, okay? Like giving it a name, just naming it. Just like Dan Siegel says, name it to tame it. And I'm going to connect this to, in Surah Al-Baqarah, what's the first thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does with Adam? وَعَلَّمَ آدَمَ الْأَسْمَاءَ كُلَّهَا. Just sit with that for a little bit. Isn't this amazing? Learning that the names of things is very important. Why? So we can have a common language. So we can understand each other. Right? Yeah. Okay. Now on the next page, number 7, there is a page that you can fill out later on for your own knowledge and understanding of yourself. Because remember how I told you that in therapy, in counseling, the three characteristics of a good counselor is this listener and non-judgment and attunement. Remember those? Okay. In order for you to be able to do that, you need to actually catch your emotions in the session while you are in the session with the couples. Because if you don't catch your emotions, you might do or say something in reaction to your emotions or thinking that is harmful for the session. So the quicker, the faster you can catch what's going on with you, okay, the better equipped you are to handle the problems that come your way. You with me? So this is a page for you. You you write down the 6 emotions, you recognize when was the last time you felt it, and then where do you feel it in your body, and what emotion is the most difficult for you to express. When I did this particular exercise for me personally as Noha, I didn't struggle with anger. Anger was not an issue for me. I can contain anger very quickly. But joy is a hard one for me. Containing joy is a hard one for me. So it's information. Just recognize for you what's going on with you. The next one on page number 8 for you to do also later on is to recognize what triggers your anger. Like identifying it with specific triggers in your life. You remember how when we did the event here, I told you to write a title for the event. You have to be specific. And this in couples therapy, we need to be specific. We cannot be general. Okay? So the more specific you are in writing your triggers, the better it is for you. And then you also have to rank it from 1 to 10. How strongly do you feel anger? Now, why am I talking, why did I specify anger here specifically? Why do you think I specify anger? Why? Sorry? It's very dangerous. Because and by the way, in psychology, we say that every single emotion has a meaning. And it's giving you information. So what do you think anger is telling us? If I am feeling angry, what does that tell me? It's a violation. It's a violation. Someone is crossing boundaries with me. Someone is disrespecting me, and so on. So is anger something that we need to avoid completely? No. No. And we have examples from the prophetic tradition that the Prophet ﷺ, and this goes to, again, we always come back here. The Prophet ﷺ, when did he become angry? For the sake of Allah. When the boundaries of Allah were crossed, that's when he got angry. Because he has a belief here in his belief system that it's not about him. It's not a personal issue, what's happening. And we have many examples of many things that happened in his life and he didn't take it personally. Do you get this? Okay, so anger, why I specified anger here, because it's one emotion that could lead to harm to other people if it's not triggered by the right reasons and if it's not acted out in the right behavior. Clear? Yes? Okay, let's move on. The next page, page number 9, is how does your body feel when you get agitated? So this, you go through the different items and then you mark all the areas where you feel it when you get angry. This is for your own understanding of yourself. Okay? We're good so far? Any questions before I move on? Yes.
One of these types of fears are facing, which one of them is the one that you must recognize and, put a lot of question marks about to take care of it?
For me or for my clients?
For the clients.
For the clients. Okay, very good question. This is talking about you as an imam in the session seeing something in front of you, like a bodily reaction to what's going on in the session. Don't ignore it. If you start seeing the beginning symptoms or signs of anger, pause and say, Khalid, would you like to take a moment? Would you like to step out and make wudu and come back? Would you like to go take a walk and come back? So what are we doing? Okay, we're not waiting for things to escalate. You see, for example, the wife crying, not because she's angry, but because she's feeling disrespected, unseen, unheard, what have you. You pause and you say, Fatima, would you like to take a minute to calm down? That's all it takes, by the way, to help people calm down, because if they're not with you, integrated emotionally, the session will not be productive. Okay? I'm going to move on because there's a lot to cover. The next page is, we have 3 pages, which are about, I'm sure many of you have heard about the 3 psychological states of fight, flight, or freeze. Correct? Fight, flight, or freeze, which is basically they talk about the unconscious nervous system reacting to a situation. So we have 3 pages here. The first one is the green energy, which is when you feel safe, when you feel connected to the person next to you, okay? So recognizing when is it that you have that state. The next one is fight or flight, which is, I'm going to do some kind of action. There is some action here, and that also to understand when that is happening. And the third is the blue energy, which is freeze, which means no action. I am paralyzed. And you get that in couples counseling, by the way. You can get one spouse who is in a frozen state, passive, they don't know what to do, they're paralyzed, while the other spouse is doing the fight or flight. So this is also only just for you to recognize that these states could be also happening in the session in front of you. Questions about these before I move on? Yes. No. So you recognize it in the session, okay, as you are sitting with them. You also recognize it from the situation. Okay, so my sign, for example, for the freeze is a husband or a wife that is feeling stuck and they are paralyzed. They don't know what's the best step forward. Okay, just by their behavior and what they're telling you, you recognize they're confused. They don't know what's the best action to take. So this is like a paralysis and, kind of like they are freeze. I want to say that, thank you for asking this question, because I want to emphasize that sometimes it is actually needed to be in this phase. So I'm not saying that the freeze phase or state is something we need to avoid or something we need to get couples out of very quickly. And I'll share with you, in my own marriage, I was frozen, if you will, for 5 to 7 years. Because I was stuck on, my husband needs to change. You see what I'm doing? My expectation, my view, my husband needs to change in order for this marriage to move forward. And so I was frozen, I didn't know what to do. For 5 to 7 years. You know what got me out of stuckness? When I decided I'm not going to wait for him to change. I'm just going to figure out what I need to do that works for me and the family. And this is where we get stuck sometimes with young couples nowadays. You get a wife coming to you and telling you she's not happy. And her solution is, I need to divorce him because I'm going to be happier when I am divorced. Okay? So it's our job, whether you as imams or me as counselor, is really to get that person to understand how is divorce going to look like for you, and be very realistic about it. I just had a conversation with one of my close friends. She's been married for 40 years. And she came to me and she's like, Noha, khalas, I'm done. I need to divorce him. I'm going to take him to court. And I can't live like this and da-da-da-da. So I just was very practical. I said, okay, Habibti, you're going to take him to court. What's going to happen? She's like, we're going to, get divorced. And then I said, okay, how are you going to live? I always take it to practical. How are you going to live? Where are you going to get money from? She's like, I'm going to get half of the assets, whatever. I said, okay, great. How much assets are there? You see what I'm doing? I'm being very specific. She gave me an amount. She said $1 million. I said, okay, great. What are you going to do with the $1 million? She said, I'm going to buy a house and then I'm going to have a roommate and so on. I said, okay, great. I would like you to go and check how much our houses are right now, or townhouses, or apartments, or condominiums, whatever they are. And how long are you going to last with that $1 million? So I just, I didn't preach. I just took it to choice and responsibility. So we talked a lot about how the rosy picture of divorce is going to look like in real life, and I ended the conversation with her. 2 weeks later, she called me and she said, Jazakillahu khairan for being very real with me. And this is what's not happening with the young women nowadays when they come to you and tell you, we are unhappy, we want a divorce. So I am inviting you, instead of doing the preaching of, the children, your husband, no, just make it real. Let them think through it. How is it going to look like if you divorce? If after all of that, she decides she wants to divorce, khalas, you've done your part. Do you get it, guys? Okay. Let's move on. We have about 4 minutes to finish the emotional integration. Yes, 100%. I am with you. Especially if the divorced woman is actually in a better financial situation because maybe she was married to a physician. Maybe, yeah. Then, of course, she's going to make everything look rosy. 100%. So you just focus on reality and asking them to put numbers. Don't just let them say, oh, I'm going to be okay financially. I'm just going to take half of his assets. With my friend, I asked her, what are his assets? I said, I want you to specify. What are the assets? What's the total amount? I'm specific. Because that's what can bring clarity. Okay? Okay. So let's move on. Emotional integration, 3 steps. First one is identify. Next one is express. No, express emotions. I'm sure you all heard the famous I feel statement in the US. We use it a lot. And I just want to highlight your attention that it's being misused in the US. So let's look at the page number 13. And the correct formula to use is I feel, and then we need an emotional word that came from the first step, which is identify, which is I feel sad, I feel angry, I feel joyous, I feel happy, whatever. You're with me so far? So the correct formula is I feel, and then a specific emotional word, and then connecting it to the event. So we're specifying the event. We're not using labels to describe the other person. I'll share with you how we get, how we misuse. But let's figure out first the correct. And then the wish. Sometimes we use the wish, sometimes we don't use the wish. Sometimes I wish you would remember to bring milk on your way home. I wish you would kiss me goodnight before we go to bed. Whatever, okay? Let's move to the next page. So you have right now in the American culture, the misuse of the I feel statement is right here in the first top of the page. People are saying, I feel like you don't love me. I want you to pay attention. I feel like you don't love me. Where is the feeling here? Where is my feeling? It's not there, it's absent. So I feel like you don't love me is a sentence. It's a label. It's a judgment of the husband. It's not I feel upset when it is my birthday and you don't buy me a gift. You see the difference? Huge difference. One is, which you listen to the people on the radio, by the way, and listen on movies and series, and everybody saying, I feel like, I feel that. And be careful, because these are sentences of, it's a thought, it's not a feeling, it's an assumption, it's blame, and it's making feelings as a separate entity from you, and it's a label of the other person, okay? You hear a lot in the US people say, it hurts my feelings. I cringe when I hear that. It hurts my feelings. What do you mean it hurts your feelings? Like feelings is like something different than you. It's like an object, So we need to be specific and help our couples to really understand they need to start using, I feel upset, I feel angry, I feel whatever you have you. Okay? So that is expressing. So the first step is identify what the feeling is. Second step is how to express it correctly. Now the third step is contain. How do we contain our emotions? Because containing emotions is a personal responsibility. Personal responsibility. Yes, the people in our life can help us, but it's not their responsibility to contain our emotions for us. So how do we contain our emotions? I have several ideas here, so I'm just going to give you a minute to read through them, and then I'll see if you have questions about it. So this is page number 15. Okay. Let's begin with let's begin from right to left on the page. Okay. So the first item under contain is you focus on solutions. If you have specified what the issue is, then you come up with solutions on how we can resolve the conflict. The second item has to do with the negative beliefs, which is right here, that the spouses can hold against each other and try and reframe them. Now, this is a higher counseling skill, okay? You may start as working with couples, slowly and surely, you will start to notice some of these negative beliefs. For example, the easiest one is the black and white thinking, which is all or nothing, which is either my spouse is all good and amazing, or my spouse is horrible and miserable. That's all or nothing thinking. What does it eliminate? It eliminates that every one of us is a mixture of good and bad. So very gently in the session, you could simply say, in this situation, your husband does this. In this situation, your wife does this. So what am I doing? I'm trying to push them away from this global thinking of black and white. Okay, so don't worry too much about the second one, which is the reframe of cognitive distortions, but you as imams can help greatly the couples with bringing realistic thinking into their discussion or conversation. So if you were to think about it, what are some of the examples that you could help your couples with to bring them to reality? Give me an example from your own work, like something that's unrealistic that maybe couples come into session with. Yes. My husband doesn't care about me. Yes.
And then you asked questions about for example, does he take you out? Does he take you for shopping? And then you will get to some of the actions of the husbands that are actually showing that he cares.
Beautiful example. Yes. Jazakallah khair. Okay. So you have Imam Muhammad has something to add. Okay.
When couples comes, that's what's wrong with so most of the time with husbands. The problem that when most time wife, not necessarily but the wife, express her feeling, the husband in a state of denying. So we tell them, please do not yes or no in the feeling. That's what she feel.
Exactly.
You should ask her what's make you feel like that.
Exactly.
And when he will ask this question, and that now will make some excuse or reasons for that, then he can talk about it. I should always acknowledge that feeling. That will give her a kind of satisfaction. Now you offer how you can help her to remove that feeling, or maybe you correct some of her misconception. I thought that you disrespected her, but you didn't mean that. So this is how I break this.
Beautiful example. Thank you. Jazakallah khair. Okay, moving on to the third column under contain, self-care. How many of you do self-care? Okay, with all due respect, Sheikh. Okay. 5 prayers are extremely important, and they are pauses in the day. They are. Very crucial and very important. They organize your day, they structure your day, they get you to disconnect from the messes outside your room, okay? 100%. I want more than self-care, more than that. Very important to think about you as human beings. You need to fill your cup. And each one of you has to figure out what helps you fill your cup. I cannot dictate to any one of you, okay, this is what you need to do. But I'll dictate one. I'm so sorry. Physical activity. If you're not doing physical activity daily, you're not really helping yourself. So please put this in your schedule. Please. Okay? Yeah. So you have the page after that, which is a self-care, which is like you list different self-care activities and how long does it take, and just to help you commit to self-care. Okay? Me, Noha, personally, reading is one of my self-care activities. And from an early time, even when my kids were younger, they all knew that mommy goes into the bedroom at 10 p.m., even if I have guests at home. Everybody knew, Noha, at 10 p.m., disconnects from everybody. That's my way of self-care. So I would go into my room and start doing reading, and then I go to bed. Okay, that's my self-care. I just want to make sure every single one of you, you have to figure out what is your self-care. It doesn't need to be long, by the way. We're not talking about 2 hours. But just dedicating at least, 20 or 30 minutes of your day to take care of your soul. إِنَّ لِنَفْسِكَ عَلَيْكَ حَقًّا. That's a prophetic principle. I'm not asking you to do something outside. It's not selfishness here. Okay? I hope this is good. Okay, so this is important for you. Okay, because remember, the number one tool in the session is you. So you need to go into the session calm, collected, able to be present. Okay, so if you're not taking care of yourself, you're going to go in with a flipped lid, and we're going to talk about flipped lid later on, I think. Sorry? فاقد الشيء لا يعطي. That's very true. Yes. And there is something about, there is something called mirror neurons. So mirror neurons are basically neurons in the brain that actually mimic what's happening in the environment. So you know how you have a toddler whom you haven't yet even talked to about prayer, and what do? When they hear Allahu Akbar, they stand up and they start doing, right? What's happening here? Mirror neurons. They saw this, and so they start mimicking what's happening in the environment. So mirror neurons are also active in emotional transfer. If you are calm, you're going to bring calmness to the people in front of you. If you're agitated, without you even saying anything, they will pick up on your agitation. Maybe they're not going to actually recognize it or identify it, but it will impact them. That's why sometimes you can be with people and you feel, you're just like in their presence. You go like, oh. And with some people you feel restless, irritable, and you want to avoid them as much as possible. That is your mirror neurons in action. Okay. So, going back to contain, the last column has to do with acceptance. Acceptance of the things that are not under our control. There are many things in our life that are not under our control. And so recognizing those is very helpful. The other day I came across a poem in Arabic, or it's like a Bayt Sha'r in Arabic. And unfortunately, I'm not a person that have very good memory, but this is one of the old poets, and he's talking about how when you give up on something, you know that you're not going to be able to attain something, you have rida. Look at the wisdom. The problem is when we don't give up on something and we keep fighting for it, even though it's not going to happen and we know it's not going to happen, we don't have rida. That's beautiful wisdom. So there are certain situations where you need to just accept something, whatever it is. But that's an important piece for containing. And that's what worked for me in my marriage. Remember how I told you I was in a frozen and then I decided I'm not going to wait for my husband to change? When I gave up on the idea of my husband changing, I was able to move forward. Okay? Good? So this is all about emotional integration. Yes? Which, sorry. Okay, just so we can. No, I think you need to turn it on. Yeah.
That reframing that you refer to having, is that an intellectual thing? Like if someone came across and said, hey, do this, it would have been like, it would have solved it would have solved it for you at that time or for a person?
Okay, so remember how I told you my father was involved, right? So what was my father telling us? My father was telling me and my husband, and I say that to my couples all the time, is he told us, you both are decent people. That's what he told me and my husband. You both are decent people. You just have differences and you need to work on them. Okay? Now, I heard that, but it took me a while to figure out how I'm going to do it. Okay? So there is the idea of you're going to share something, and then you don't know when it's going to click for the other person. I talk with my couples about the Covey circles, like you recognizing the area of your control and focusing on that. And one of my clients the other day, I worked with her for at least 3 years. So like just recently, we were talking, and then she started using the Covey circles. When I was working with her for 3 years, the Covey circles did not click for her. So I was like, whoa, alhamdulillah. Like, look how many years it took for her to come to the understanding that what I was trying to tell her. So you do your part. Sometimes you see the light bulb going up in their head, and you see it in their eyes, by the way. They go like, whoa, yeah. And sometimes it just, oops, it didn't click. No problem. Did I answer your question? Okay. Yes. Okay. Yes. So can I have, you want to talk about him? The Covey circles? Yeah, he's asking about the Covey. Who's this person who's saying, yeah, Stephen Covey, yeah. You don't want to elaborate. Okay. So I'm going to highly encourage you, if you haven't read his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and also he has one for the families. Both books are very powerful books. 7 Habits of Highly Effective Families. Families. And the lovely thing about him is that he's spiritual. I know he's Mormon, but like he wrote a book for the masses, okay, a secular, supposedly book, but you can feel the spirituality in his writing. So highly recommend reading these 2 books. Highly, highly. Yeah. Sorry? 7 Habits of Highly Effective People and the 7 Habits of Highly Effective Families. So 2 separate books. Okay? So he says, if you look in the page, on page number 15, I have like two drawings. One about when you react to the things that are not under your control. And when you're proactive, you're focusing on the things that are under your control. So that's what was happening with me in my marriage. When in 5 to 7 years I was frozen, I was focused on my husband, who's not under my control, right? So I was reacting. And I had an expectation of a specific change, specific changes actually, not one change. I wanted him to do so many different things differently. Okay, and as long as I was waiting for that, I was stuck. When did I become proactive? Is when I started focusing on my control, which is what? I cannot change my husband. And that is very important in couples counseling. That's why I bring it up, because you will have many spouses coming into the session. I made the change. I changed my expectation, I changed my behavior too. Because what I started doing, instead of criticizing him, and instead of saying, oh, you're not doing this, you're not doing that, I started focusing on Allah yatik al-afiyah. May Allah bless you for working hard for us. Jazakallah khair for doing this. I really didn't know this, and what you told me the other day, because I would resist, let me tell you. I would resist whatever he would tell me, okay? Like he would say, for example, the funniest example is, he told me when we got married is, why don't you learn typing? And I'm like, why do I want to learn typing? Oh, no, I don't want to learn typing. And then I started teaching computer classes at the local school, right? And I was the computer science teacher. And one of the things that I asked them to learn is to do typing without looking at the keyboard, right? And then I felt embarrassed. Like I am asking them to type and I don't know how to type. So I learned typing, okay? But I had to be ready. But my point is, I resisted what he would tell me. But later on, when I changed, I started focusing on what he would tell me that's actually very wise and very good, and would say, oh, Jazakallah khair when you did this. I appreciated that you told me this. You were right, okay? Because his frustration with me is I would never tell him you were right. I'm just sure these are the dynamics of couples, okay? But how did this change happen? When I decided to focus on my area of control, not waiting for him or her to. Now, that doesn't mean I wasn't communicating to him when I wasn't happy about something. So I was saying to someone before, I'll finish the example, I didn't finish it. When we go on vacation, my husband asked me to find the restaurant we're going to go eat at. So I would sit and do my research and then give him the options. And then he goes and then he chooses something else. So this happened a few times. And then I would get upset. I mean, my issue with that is that you're wasting my time here. Like, if you're ultimately going to go and choose the restaurant, khalas, choose it from the beginning. So now, this is me speaking to myself, yani. And I would be upset. After he chooses the restaurant, we'd go to the restaurant, and I am upset. And he's like, why do you always get upset when we are on vacation? We're supposed to be having fun, and so on. So I didn't hear what you said, but let me finish. So what I decided to do, under my area of control, is I told him, Amir, when you ask me to choose a restaurant, it happened several times. I choose and then you choose something else. So I have decided I will not look for restaurants anymore. That's under my control. Okay? And then I got out of it because I don't want to put myself into this situation repeatedly. Do you get the idea, I hope, of focusing on what's under your control? I hope you get it, yeah? Okay, Sheikh Abdurrahman, did you say something?
I just said, when he chose the restaurant, do you eat or you do not eat? That's all.
No, alhamdulillah, I eat. Yes, no, but I eat. No, but I can guarantee you, I'm sure there would be wives who would go and tell him to punish him. Because now we're talking dynamics. She would, to punish him, is like, I'm not going to eat. You chose this restaurant. Or maybe she would tell him, I'm not going to go. You go eat. Yeah. Yes. Can you use the mic? I don't know where's the mic now. Oh, shukran. Shukran. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. Jazakallah khair. Mm-hmm.
Just all this happened before you became a counselor, or just
no,
is after?
Very good question. Excellent question. This happened after I was a counselor, and I was a counselor for a while.
Oh, okay.
And I'm so glad you asked this, because it doesn't mean that we learned all of this beautiful stuff, that we're not going to be upset, that we're not going to get angry. Okay, we're human beings. Okay, the value though is, if you are struggling with the situation, is really assessing the situation and then figuring out what you want to do about it.
Because
that's the value.
Sometimes what they expect from the imams, because you are imam, you preach, and sometimes you can be in the same situation because,
yes.
you know. Okay, thank you.
Very true. Very true. Thank you for asking that. Any other question? Okay, wait, let's give you the mic. Thank you. Can we pass him the mic? Yeah. Jazakallah khair. Thank you.
Jazakallah khair. I wanted to know if, when concentrating on those factors that are under your control, do you think that changing your perception on a particular situation, like in the situation you just mentioned about choosing a restaurant, changing your perception on that, would that be more effective? Would that also be helpful to that given situation?
Okay, very good question. Your question is asking if in the situation of restaurant.
So for example, he asks you choose a restaurant, but then he ends up choosing something completely different.
Yeah.
Instead of the example that you gave, that look, next time I'm not going to do that because this is what you do. Obviously, you can't really change him not asking you again to choose a restaurant, rather than, okay, next time that he does ask me, I'll just change my perception that at least he cares, he is going out of his way to ask me, he probably takes it into the consideration, so let me have a more positive. Do you think that would be more effective than...
Excellent question. I'm going to say it depends on the person, okay? For me, Noha, personally, it's not effective for me, but it could be effective for someone else, okay? And I also will caution you that sometimes I have many well-intentioned clients who actually in the session, they are saying, yeah, I know he cares, all of that lovely, words about perception. But when it comes to the trigger, an event that triggers them, all that lovely perception leaves the, is not there anymore. So it depends, okay? I'll tell you, related to the perception with me personally, in other situations, yes, I have changed my perception. But why? Because we did a lot of repair. So my certain perceptions I had before, I don't have anymore. And then when he does things, and it's going to come up in an activity later on, inshallah, in the afternoon. So when he does something that used to bother me when I was younger, nowadays it doesn't faze me anymore because my perception has changed.
Yeah.
And so that's the activity we're going to do in the afternoon. It's called Top Card, which is all about the perception. Yes.
And I just like to point out that Stephen Covey, after reading his book, I think he really talks about paradigm shifts, and
yes.
he talks about perceptions and aligning your expectations with each other. And so after reading that, I think it's in chapter 1 or chapter 2, the first or the second being proactive, or the second, I think it really, when you apply that even in fiqh, when you apply that even in, differences, between spouses, it completely changes your attitude and things becomes much more easier.
You're absolutely right, but keep in mind, sometimes it's harder to do. It's easier to focus on the behavior change because it's much tangible than to focus on the perception. Sometimes you need the behavior to change, you changing your behavior to be able to change your perception. Just, okay? We're good? Okay. Let's take a deep breath. Okay. I am terribly sorry because I underestimated the time again. So I'm going to give you a minute to read page number 17. So just read through it. These are the guidelines for the counseling therapy. So only page 17, if you please. Okay, do we need more time for reading, or are we good moving on? Good? Okay. So the 4 stages of therapy at the top of the page, okay, those are the counseling stages of therapy. It doesn't mean that you as an imam have to do those 4, okay? Most probably, you're gonna do 1 and 2 and sometimes 3. Most probably. Any reflections on those stages? But I want to emphasize from here that you cannot do counseling without establishing a working alliance with the people in your room. You have the bond, which happens implicitly and explicitly, like we were talking about before, in terms of the respect, in terms of the non-judgment, in terms of the attunement. Those are things that are important for the bonding. Has someone had their hand up? Mic, if we can have the mic, please, back. Yes. Jazakumullah khair. Thank you. I appreciate you. Yeah.
So if you have an appointment with a couple and then at that day or at that time you're not available emotionally or ready, so should you change it or?
Okay, it depends how agitated you are. Okay, if you're really agitated, then yes, maybe ask for a reschedule. Okay, if you're mildly agitated, no, go ahead and do it, but kind of like take the session slow. Just like pause, so you allow yourself to kind of like regather yourself, so you can be with them. Okay, can you use the mic? Yeah.
Would you recommend some type of bluntness, I guess, to keep the conversation focused? Because sometimes I feel there's too much talking and venting. So what I do sometimes, I would just say, okay, there's 3 choices. We can have the status quo, you stay as is, or you improve the situation, or you divorce. Which one do you want to focus on? Sometimes, because, basically that's what the 3 choices are. So if they just keep venting and venting, there's going to be status quo. I don't have to be with you. You can keep doing that on your own. If you want to improve the situation, we can start, trying to solve the problems and moving forward. Right. If neither of you want to work, then, I don't know if this is your suggestion about.
So you can definitely do that, but after.
Yeah.
After you kind of know that you have already kind of heard the whole situation. Okay, and let me say here something. You as an imam or me as a therapist, okay, I could be in the room and listening to the story and I already figured out what's the core issue. Okay? I can figure it out quickly now. I had, alhamdulillah, worked with so many people, and you guys, after working with so many people, you can get it like that, right? So don't cut them off there just because you figured it out. Okay, just allow them, because it is important for them to vent to you. That is part of the counseling process. So allow them to do that. And then when you start hearing things are repeated, then maybe you could do what you said, very gently though, and very respectfully. Okay? In counseling, we have this funny thing is some counselors, they have a pyramid with 3 sides. Okay? One says solutions, one says blame other people, and the other says blame the world or blame God. And so when the client comes in, this is just really, some people do this. I don't do it, but just to give you an idea, it's to your point. When the client comes in, they ask, okay, what side are we doing today? Are we focusing on solution? Are we blaming whoever? Or, yeah. So I find that me, as Noha, in my therapy, I'm a very direct person. But I allow them to have their space. This is out of my respect for them and also the attunement piece. Did I answer your question? Okay. Yes, let's get the mic. Thank you. Here you go.
So oftentimes if we're approached, it'll be just one party that's approaching, they're asking for general advice. At what point do you say it takes both of you to come in to pass judgment on the situation that's going on?
If the whole session is about blaming the other person, definitely. You say, we really can't work on this because the other person is not in the room with us. And it's better maybe if he comes, she comes, or if you want us to focus on what you can do with what is bothering you. Yes? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In a situation where we are counseling a couple, should we ever check up on one or the other without, both of them in the same room just to see how they're doing?
Okay, so I don't know how it is in the Imam's circle, okay? But for me as a therapist, I unless there is a safety issue, okay, I will not check on my clients after session. And the reason being is, I just need to give them their space. Some people, after they come and share all of this, they feel embarrassed. I'm coming to you. They feel embarrassed, okay? And they don't want anyone to remind them of what was shared, okay? So this is my stance as a therapist. Now, I don't know in the Imam circles what you guys do, but if you are going to check on one, please check on the other person. Please don't do unilateral check-ins, please. If you're gonna do check-in. One of the other reasons why I also don't check in on clients, unless we have a safety issue, again, I'm emphasizing safety, is because you need to teach clients that they cannot be dependent on you emotionally. They need to learn, if they need help and support, they need to seek it. I'm not gonna fuel dependency. I'm not gonna fuel, because this could be happening in their life, by the way. It's like they portray themselves as victims and people in their life are just coming to them and saying haram and poor thing and doing things for them because, they are victims. So I don't wanna be part of that group. The best way to support a victim is to teach them independence, emotional independence and psychological independence. Okay, so you clarify to them in a very gentle manner that I don't check on clients between sessions. If you need me, just send me a text, send me an email, or let me know that you need to talk to me for 5 minutes, or book another session. Good? Okay. Public situation is, okay, let me say what I do with my clients in public is because I live in a small community, right? In a Muslim community. So I tell my clients, I don't do this anymore, but I used to in the beginning. When I see you in public, I'm not going to greet you. And don't think it's because I'm disrespecting you. It's just I'm protecting your confidentiality. Now, I don't know, but in Southern California, people seem to be very comfortable. They come up to me and, oh, Khala Noha, and then they say, oh, Khala Noha is my therapist. Like, they don't have a problem. Because right now it's so cool, within the younger generation, it's so cool to be in therapy. That's the wave right now, okay? Yes, Imam?
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
So I'm looking at the last bullet point here in the script for beginning.
Yes.
So this question, I start with this question every time the couple come. Unfortunately, sometimes I encounter situations where the couples come to me. One of them is already pretending to that he wants to come for counseling. In the back of his or her mind, they want to end this marriage.
Yes, you're right.
They just come in to pretend or to say, oh, hey, I did my part. So I sense that sometimes.
Yes.
I do start with this question, and I ask this question: if you cannot continue your marriage together because of problems, that's why you're here. Are you expecting that, inshallah, after going through these sessions, that you're gonna, inshallah, improve? And I do ask this question. I give it bluntly to them. If anyone wants to have a divorce determined, there's nothing that I can do to you.
Yeah.
If you already, so I use this verse in Surah An-Nisa, which of course you know it and everyone here knows it. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يُرِيدَ إِصْلَاحًا يُوَفِّقْ, if they both want to reconcile, then Allah will make a way for them. But if someone wants to reconcile and the other one doesn't want to reconcile, so I just, my style is I give it to them bluntly.
Yes.
If one of you doesn't want to continue, I cannot help you with this. Is that okay to say this?
So you begin this even before knowing what they're coming to you?
No. They come and I get their names. I have it, break the ice and everything, and I ask them this question: why are you here? What's your goal? What's your purpose? And then after I sense that
after you sense,
yes,
okay, great.
Okay.
As long as it's after you sense,
yes,
and you can say, you could say directly to the person, and that's actually very helpful. Ahmed. And I've done this with my clients many times. Ahmed, I don't know why I'm sensing that you have made up your decision to divorce and leave the marriage. You see, I'm saying it softly and gently. And I'm just directly, because I told you, I'm a very direct therapist, okay? I don't beat around the bush. I don't do a lot of cuddling. So I say that and I say, I'm sensing that. Is this true? And then they go like, no, of course not. I want to improve. I work with what they say. Or they say, yes, I was forced to come here.
Okay.
And then the whole conversation will change. Yeah.
Yeah, so how is it going to change then after someone declares that no matter what he does, so I give them this scenario. I said, so for example, a woman complained about the husband because of a few things that he is doing right now. And I say to her, what if your husband is a newborn today? He's changed. Would you continue with him? She said, he will never change. I said, give him a chance. So she still said, sometimes I say, no matter what, if he turns to an angel, I will still not be married to him. So what would you do at this point? So have a good day or what?
Okay, very good question. And I have here, which inshallah we're going to pass to you, what is called the decision-making form. Okay? Whenever I have someone who's telling me they want to divorce, I ask them to fill out this form. So basically, they need to compare and contrast between staying in the marriage and leaving the marriage. This is a very powerful form.
What page is this?
No, you're going to get it right now. It's not in the handouts.
Oh.
Okay? You're going to get a copy of it right now. And I highly recommend that you keep it blank and make copies of it. It's going to become your best friend. Okay? Because really, it helps clarify for your couples this decision. So I have had couples who fill it out and then come back and say, we're divorcing. And then I have couples or spouses, whatever, they fill it out and then they come back and say, no, I want to work on the marriage. So to answer also your question, you just stay with them where they are. I have had couples who left the session saying, or one of them saying, khalas, I'm going to file for divorce. And they never do. Because sometimes people just react in the session. You stay with where they're at in the session, and then يَخْلُقُ اللَّهُ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Good? Okay, and the imam next to you? Yeah.
So I've noticed 2 or 3 different expectations or what they are seeking. Number 1 is validation.
Is what?
Validation.
They want validation.
They want validation.
Yes.
It's either the wife or the husband. They are seeking validation for, so they will go ahead and emotionally bring up a lot of the issues that they are seeing it from their lens, and then therefore they are trying to package it in a way where they will get you to even agree with them.
Yes, absolutely.
And then the second one I've seen is that they are asking you to make a decision for them.
Oh, that's really
so
sad.
Meaning, what do you think? I'm in this situation. What does Islam say? So now I found that we as imams need to be very careful and allow and make sure that they take ownership of the decisions that they will make, because if you suggest either reconciliation or divorce, then if it doesn't work out, it will come back to bite you.
Yes,
and that
100%.
applies whether it's, wilaya of a girl who she's saying that the father is doing this, or a khul' or a divorce, whatever it is, you just give, that roadmap. Okay, you have to do your research, do the pros and the cons, have the very, straightforward, respectful meeting amongst yourselves, and leave, because it will come back to the imams, and their livelihood will be at risk, because especially if they're connected. They're saying, well, the imam told me to divorce.
Yes.
I've had cases where they got divorced on the Wednesday, and on Friday they would come back and saying, how can we get back together? But because they realize what divorce or khula actually means.
Right, 100%. So you said validation.
And
then they want you to make a decision for them.
They want you to make a decision.
And number 3?
Number 3, I forgot what it was.
That's okay. When you remember it, inshallah, share. Our imam here. Yeah.
In regards to a couple coming and one of them seeming to clearly not want to continue. Are you familiar with discernment therapy?
What is it?
Discernment therapy?
No. Because I told you 200 plus psychology and counseling. Yeah. So is it helpful for you?
Oh, I wanted to ask what your thoughts are.
No, I don't know what it is. This is the first time I've heard of it too. Yeah.
It's from a professor from the U of M, Dr. Doherty, I think it is. But it's basically getting couples to agree when there's one who does not want to, one or the other, but then them agreeing for a certain period of time to try. And if they agree, then they use that discernment therapy. And then at the end of that, then they'll revisit, do they want the decision at the end of that.
Jazakallah khair. Thank you. I never heard of it, but thank you for educating me. I can look it up, but even if I look it up, it would be hard for me to give like if you will, a taqeem or So barakallah fiqh. I think he has his hand up, and I don't know if there are people. Yes, you want to say something?
Jazakallah khair. This is a beautiful forum. Some of the ethnic groups in the community, they may not be interested. I will definitely use this forum. Definitely, I will use it. I have some cases. My community have ethnic groups who actually divorced for the silliest reasons. Divorce for the silliest reasons. I'm blaming men for that. One case, I know that divorced his wife over a piece of baklava. Something very silly. Because of the repetitive divorce, the wife now, she's just, she gave up. She said, I don't want to live with someone who divorced me that many times. In this case, I don't believe that they will be interested in finding out what happened after divorce. They just want a divorce, and that's it. You know what I mean? So, again, in this case, in some cases I stand speechless, not knowing.
It's very harmful, right? Especially hurtful. Sorry, especially if they're coming to you and telling you, "I want you to divorce us." Like they're not coming in the counseling phase. They're coming after we made the decision. We want divorce, and they're coming to you.
And I usually end up saying that divorce is not in the hand of the imam. You say the word of divorce. If he doesn't say it, you go ahead and file for divorce. I'm here only to help you reconcile, not to divorce.
Yeah.
That's what I usually say at the end.
So I don't know how it is in your state, but in California, the courts, if you file for divorce, they ask the couples to go and do some kind of mediation or counseling before the judge even issues the divorce. There is a six-month period before the divorce is issued. So I don't see any harm in you even trying and saying, okay, I know you made the decision. Can you just at least fill up these forms? So you go into the divorce with open eyes.
Okay.
To me, it's about clarity of the decision. Okay. The imam behind you, and we need to, guys. We need to move on to the next one. Yeah. Yes.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Could we say that an imam, or like when the couple is coming to the imam, or a person is coming to the imam, that at the end of the day, what we're trying to help them understand is how to make a decision, essentially, in the sense that like they're coming in, they might be like emotional at that moment because of something that happened that day or something. So we're trying to help them in terms of, I guess like with this form, for example, instead of making an immediate decision, or instead of making decisions based on, I don't want to say emotions, but let's use the word emotions, kind of be more organized. And if two people are coming from different backgrounds, in the sense that like they grew up in different ways,
Right.
they had different expectations, the things that we were talking about earlier, like the whole thing that we did, the flow chart. In that sense, we can start a conversation, but then kind of tell them, you can continue this kind of stuff, or I mean, you can continue this specific exploration, if you may, with a therapist, with a licensed marriage therapist or whatever. We're not going to be able to have that much time to go in depth in terms of exploring all the details. So you can start the conversation and then direct them forward.
Yes.
So in this case, it makes it a little bit easier because we don't have to go into that much detail and then get overwhelmed in the process. Is that something that you would recommend as an approach, Ryan?
So let me maybe say, you being in the situation you're in, you're an expert in that particular situation. So I hesitate to recommend one specific way of handling the situation. With your knowledge, with your wisdom, okay, and your experience, and you're going to make mistakes, guys. I have made mistakes in my counseling journey, and those mistakes taught me what to do differently next time, okay? So I hesitate to recommend any very specific pathway just because it's hard to give like one answer. So do whatever you are sensing is best in that particular situation, because something that might work for one couple is not going to work for another couple. But you're right in terms of two things. You're helping them with navigating what are they trying to achieve or what's their decision. And the second one is recognizing when it's more than what you can do as an imam to please refer out. But please, when we're talking about referring out, get to know the professionals in your locale. Because even Muslim therapists, sometimes they may not be the best therapist for the couple. So it's not just because they're Muslim, khalas, they know exactly what they're doing. So please be careful and get to know who is around you. Just get to know how they think. You know, what's their view of things, so you can be either comfortable referring to them or having a list. And I know we don't have many. I mean, as a Muslim community, our options are limited. I understand. But even if you find a non-Muslim but is more aligned with the religious values, that could be a better person than a Muslim therapist who's really disconnected from the deen. I'm sorry, but I'm just being real here. Okay? So, Jazakallah khair. Okay, so because we're going to take Sheikh Abdurrahman and you, and then we need to move on because there's a lot of material to cover. I'm so sorry. Yes.
Bismillah. Quickly, you started with the stage of therapy.
Yes.
Beginning stage. Okay, establish a working alliance. Can you tell us what is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the working alliance? Beginning understanding 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Because I am missing it here. The same thing, exploration and understanding, getting deeper. Can you tell us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6?
Okay. I don't have many 1, 2, 3, 4, but the beginning stage is what we talked about, how your presence in the session. Like you being non-judgmental, you being respectful, you being in tune with your with whoever was you in the session, and some of the stuff that you guys have mentioned before about not being siding with the husband or the wife. All of this helps establish safety. Yani the goal of number one is that the couple feels safe with you in the room, both of them, both. Okay, if they don't feel safe, if they don't trust you, there is no counseling that's going to happen. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, exploration and understanding is basically listening. It's basically just listening A lot of listening is happening in number 2. I'm not coming up with interpretations yet. I'm not coming up with assessment. I'm just doing a lot of listening. I am asking questions. I am asking clarifying questions about the situations, like questions that are deep and are important, not silly questions. Okay? Just to understand the situation better. And these I cannot give you. These you will figure out with your experience. As you do this more and more and more, you will have your own list and it will come up like second nature for you. Okay? So that's number 2. Number 3, which is the active action stage, which is what the client is making decisions. Sometimes you may get to number 3 and sometimes you're not. Like some of you were talking about the clients want to come in and vent. Then we're not going to move to stage number 3. We're just going to stay with number 1 and 2. Number 4, I would say it's more of a therapy skill thing, so I wouldn't worry about it with you guys. Does that answer, Sheikh Abdurrahman? Okay. Do you have the mic?
Oh.
No. Let's, yeah.
Who is
The setting. Okay. So let him ask his question and then I'll come to you. Yes, please go ahead, Imam.
Would you recommend for us as imams to get degrees in counseling or therapy, or is it something like if one is able to do so, or is it self-study or reading?
I think it's a personal choice.
Okay.
Because like I'll tell you, I know colleagues of mine who went through the program with me, counseling program, and decided not to practice. Being a counselor is heavy. Okay, so just because you're an imam doesn't mean you have to be a counselor. If you choose out of your own personal choice that this is something you would choose to do, it's a personal choice. It's not a should. And you have to be honest with yourself and your limits and your abilities. I know someone the other day was telling me, no, I can't do counseling because I just absorb all the emotions of the people around me and they cannot separate. So that's not a person who can do counseling. Okay, did I answer your question? Regarding the setting of the room, as long as you are making that we have equal opportunity or equal access, if you will, we're good. What is important is the privacy. Very important, the privacy. The other thing that is important in this page is also boundaries. Boundaries are important, meaning you have to decide how many hours are you going to be available for counseling. Don't accept that people come to you at your door and say, Imam, we want to have a counseling session with you right now. Please don't do that. Please. Why? Because you're just fueling into their anxiety. Okay, this is not a crisis. We're not talking about someone who wants to kill themselves. Then yes, of course, we have to respond, right? But for them to come at your door and say, we had an argument, please, reconcile between us, that's not acceptable. You respond to them and say, please make an appointment. And have a system for how your couples are going to make an appointment with you. What are the hours? Don't be available all the time. Remember self-care? That's part of self-care, okay? I'm also going to recommend they don't have your personal number. I'm just going to recommend that. You guys, have you heard of, what's it called, Google Voice? That's what I have. I have 2 numbers on my phone. I have my personal number that I actually don't give to people, and I have my professional number is the Google Voice. If anyone wants to contact me professionally, it's on my Google Voice. So I am not also on WhatsApp groups. I'm just saying. This I consider as part of my self-care. And also, you are establishing a boundary so people don't assume they can reach to you 24/7. There has to be a boundary around that. I am on WhatsApp, but for my personal acquaintances only. Only. And I don't join groups. Personally, I find WhatsApp overwhelming, and it's not organized, and it's not structured. Okay, so I prefer communication by email. Okay, that's easy to manage. Anyway, that's a personal thing. Okay, so let's move on because of the time, guys. We need to finish by 12:30, and we have 3. We have 3 pages to cover. So let's move on to page number 18, which is actually the counseling skills. So let's go ahead. I want you to have 1 minute only to read the 6 items under counseling skills. That's all you need to read. Can we wait until after this, please? Okay, let's let them read and then ask me. Yeah. Okay. So I have listed for you 6 basic counseling skills that can be used in the session. Okay? Those are the most important skills you can do in the session with your clients. Examples of open-ended questions and closed-ended questions is in the next page on number 18. And then I have good questions that are helpful to use. And then the last one is questions to avoid. The most important question to avoid is the why question. Try to avoid asking why. Why did you do that? Okay? So instead of saying, why did you do that? You ask, so what happened? What happened before that? And then what did you do? Okay? Because the why question is going to bring up defensiveness and blame. It's threatening to the self, and it's also going to get you into a place of blaming. Oh, she made me do this. Like, she got me angry. You see what I'm saying? So we didn't learn anything useful from the why question. But you can ask, okay, so what happened before you hit her? Then I'm getting information about the circumstance, the context, okay? And then what did you do after you hit her? You follow me? So this is, as much as possible, avoid the why question. Avoid the questions that are answered by yes or no. Because questions that are yes or no are not going to give you information. So you have examples of that on the next page. So now let's come to the counseling skills for a little bit. So the first one is paraphrasing. That's the easiest thing to do. Paraphrasing is just you repeat what you heard. Okay, you don't repeat word to word, but you repeat kind of the gist of, what you heard. So you can do summarizing and paraphrasing together. So like the husband, for example, gave you a long story about what happened at home. So you go something like, so I heard from you, okay, that when you come home tired, exhausted, after a long day of work, and you don't find dinner ready, you get very upset and furious, and then you go into the kitchen and you start banging the cupboards, and you start, preparing a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and then you just are huffing and puffing, okay? You see what I'm doing? So he told me that. I heard that from him, and I am summarizing it, okay? And then I say to the wife, I heard from you that your husband, that day when your husband came and he was angry because dinner wasn't ready, your child was sick. He had a fever. You were there the whole day sitting next to your child trying to bring the fever down. You see what I'm doing? So what happens when you do this paraphrasing and summarizing is 2 things. Number 1, you slow the process. And it's very important to slow the process to calm down emotions. So that's number 1. Number two is you're doing the validation. I think the Imam there, he was talking about the couples want validation from us. So I'm validating their experience by they are listening. They're listening to like, oh, they got me. He got me. He actually understood. And the third one now is also the spouse sometimes can hear from you what the other spouse is trying to say. Because remember, when they come to you into the session, there has been an accumulation of a lot of hurt, which means that when they're speaking to each other, they're actually not listening to each other. Because what comes up when they start trying to speak to each other is that what they comes up for them is, I hate him, he doesn't love me, he doesn't care about me, all of that lovely stuff, okay? Or vice versa. So when in the session, you as an imam repeat and summarize what they are saying, you allow the spouse to hear what's going on. And then we affirm our understanding of the situation, because sometimes they come back to you and say, no. And it could be something very silly. You could say, for example, you were angry, and then, for example, the spouse says, no, I was furious. Anger and fury are shades of each other. But what does it tell you when, they tell you, I am furious? That means it's really a big deal for them. Or the other way around. You could say, it happens also, you could say you were angry, and then they respond and say, no, I was annoyed. Annoyed is different than angry, so it just gives you a glimpse into what's going on. Okay, so that's paraphrasing. The next one is the going deeper and catching the feelings. So this one is harder. This one is trickier, because you will need to listen to what they're saying and kind of ask yourself, what's the feeling behind this statement? So let's go ahead and do an exercise together, because unfortunately I was hoping to have you in groups and do this, but we don't have time. I'm so sorry for that. So I'm going to read the statement, and then I would like any one of you to try and tell me, how would you reflect back to whoever said that statement, catching whatever they're feeling? You understand what I'm asking you to do? So this is reflecting feelings. Like, we don't need to wait for people to tell us their feelings to get it. We can do deductions. Okay, so first one. I'm just so tired of working on this marriage. He doesn't do anything. He puts the responsibility on me to fix things. This is a wife talking to you. Okay, so how can you reflect her feelings back to her? What can you say? And to use the formula, you need to go back to page, let's see, the one that had the express, because I didn't talk to you about how you can express about other people, but that's where it's going to come. 13? Okay. So page 13, if you go to page 13, you are going to notice there is, when you're expressing about yourself, so you're saying, I feel da 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 da, and then there is when you're expressing about others. So you as an imam in the session, you're going to use the you feel. You feel da when this happened. That's the formula you are going to use in session. Do you get me? And this is what we're hoping also spouses will say to each other. Did I lose anyone here? If you're lost, tell me, please. You're good? You're all on board with me? Okay, alhamdulillah. Okay, so let's go back to, you're going to use you feel when, okay? And I read to you the statement. So what do you think the you feel when for this statement is going to look like? For I'm so tired of working on this marriage. What do you think it's going to look like? You want to try? Yeah. Okay, let's get you the mic. Who has the mic, please? Okay.
So for this example, you can for example, you can say, you feel tired of your marriage when he does not do anything for you, or when he doesn't help you, or like. So So
yes.
yeah.
Yes. And yes. And different people will have a different statement. It's okay. It's not like a one answer. Okay. It's like we have a variety of answers. Jazakallah khair. Thank you. Let's do the second statement. You have a question? Yes. So he said tired. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Second statement. It's not too much to ask for a clean and tidy home. What is she doing all day? I don't get it. I come home and the sink is overflowing with dirty dishes, and then she asks me, what's for dinner? This is a real example. The wife is asking the husband, what's for dinner? A real life example, honestly, okay? So what do you think is the statement for reflecting feelings? Who want to try? Would you like to try? Okay, yes, Jazakallah khair. Next one. Shukran, sorry.
But I think this is not American, because most women, they go to work, so I don't know.
She works.
You say all day home, so what is she doing all day?
But she works, but she's
Okay.
working from home.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, reality, yeah.
So you feel upset
Yes.
when she's not taking care of the house?
Mm-hmm.
What and you wish she take care of the house or she clean the house?
Yes. Yeah, simple. Yeah. I mean, the more you do it, guys, the smoother it's going to be, okay? I remember when I went to counseling and I started using this stuff with my kids, and my kids would start laughing at me. They're like, that's not usual conversation. That's not what we are used to saying. So they would say, Mama, please don't use this with us, please. But then it becomes smoother, and now, khalas, they're used to me that this is how Mama talks, the side effects of being a counselor. Okay, next one. Would you like to try it, sister? No? You want to? No? Okay, who would like to try number 3? He's a bum. He stays up all night playing video games and sleeps all day. Another real example.
Discuss.
And I have to work all day and take care of the house too. That's a real example. Yeah.
Could it be discussed?
Yeah. You're disgusted. Disgust, by the way, is the first time I felt disgust was when Trump was elected as president. I was like, it's not an emotion that I experience a lot, but I was like, oh my God. Anyway, so yes, I felt, you feel disgusted, and then how would you finish it? How would you say, Sheikh Abdul Rahman? So you feel disgusted?
When he's a bum.
No, so thank you. No, Sheikh Abdul Rahman, well done. Thank you. So now here, I'm so glad you said that, because we're going to avoid the label.
Yeah.
Because he's a bum is a label.
Yeah, that is right.
Yeah. So it's going to fuel even more, But sorry.
It just came.
Naam. Where's the qawama? Yeah. So you are disgusted because, or when he's
not taking care of his responsibility.
Yes, there we go. Yeah. Okay. Good?
Yeah.
Okay. Jazakallah khair. Okay. Jazakallah khair. He's all the way at the end.
Can you give it to him?
Okay.
I had a question on when you are saying, okay, you feel angry or disgusted, or I'm just trying to reconcile with what you said earlier about not judging the session, especially if both the husband and the wife are there.
Yeah.
So would you still recommend that we fill in the blanks for them, or should we ask them, how does that make you feel? And then when they express how it makes them feel, and then you can just paraphrase it. I'm afraid that if I was to say you feel disgusted, and I've put words in her mouth, and then the husband who's sitting there might view me as being biased, against him. So what is the, how
Okay.
do we get around it?
So Jazakallah khair for asking this question. I'm going to invite you though not to use how does this make you feel. Okay, because remember we are talking about owning responsibility for our emotions, and so not externalizing it to like the event is making me feel this way. I want to emphasize this, okay? The reason why I'm feeling this way is because I have certain thoughts about the situation. And remember Ahmad and Khalid and cutting, okay? So it's not the event itself that's making me feel this way. It's how I think about the situation. So please avoid using, how does this make you feel? It's a very common question in our American language, and it's a very harmful question because it doesn't allow people to own responsibility. And to me, I think, I don't know how many times you're going to hear the word responsibility from me. I have no idea, but responsibility is very important. So avoid that question. Next, to your question, when you say something, and I understand you're worried that you might give words that she didn't say. However, there is nothing more powerful than someone catching how you're feeling and giving you the word for it, even when you don't know what the word is. That is validation at its best. So, sorry. Now, my problem, Sheikh Faqih, as you know, sometimes it's hard for me to repeat what I said. Because I'm not reading from a script. I just share with you what's coming up for me in one. So I'm going to try and remember. There's nothing more powerful than feeling validated by someone catching your feeling and giving you the word for it, even when you don't know yourself, you don't know the word. I have experienced this myself as a human being. Like I would be talking and then someone catches my feeling, even though I didn't say anything, okay, about my feelings. But they catch it. The amount, like you feel physical relief.
The issue with that is
Can I finish?
We wear many different hats.
So let me finish this, okay? And then I can hear your clarification. Now, you could say the feeling word, and then the wife says no. If the wife or the husband don't agree with the feeling word that you have used, they're not going to be quiet. They will tell you immediately. It's going to come, no, just like I told you earlier. So I'm not worried about using the wrong feeling word, okay? That's not my worry because they will correct me. I don't want to worry also about the other person who's in the session about saying, I am putting words in their mouth. Because the counseling process is about getting people to understand one another. So if the spouse in the room is agreeing with the word I'm using, then I am helping illuminating. And I will tell you, I'm so sorry, but there are many husbands who dismiss their wives' feelings and they will deny it. And someone was talking here, I don't remember who said it, that when the husband says, oh no, she shouldn't feel this way, or and then they said, no, you need to accept her feelings as someone. Who was the imam who said that? Was it you, Imam Muhammad? Okay, that is very important. So I do this with, unfortunately, it's more about men. I'm so sorry to tell you, Yani, but it's more about men who are dismissive of emotions. So I tell that to the husband. You cannot tell her what she can feel. You can't. Everyone feels whatever they feel, okay? She has a right to her feelings. And then we need to work through, what to do about that. So continue.
So the issue with, I'm trying to reconcile, I've been trying to reconcile or at least navigate, and I continue to do so. Wear a completely different hat. In qada, you wear arbitration, you wear a completely different hat.
True.
You can't be seen as being biased towards
True.
any one of them. You can't
True.
put words in their mouth.
Mm-hmm.
How can we reconcile, or would you say separate the two, refer it to someone else? This is a challenging thing, especially if that's the expectation clients have.
That's a very, very good question. So that's why we come back to number 5. Item number 5 is clarifying the goal. So you being very intentional as you are sitting in the session about asking them, you could ask several times in the session, what's the goal of the session? Are you working towards khulu' and you want me to just do the qada'i thing, you know? Are we working towards divorce, we want to do qada'i? Or are you coming because you want to talk about the problem and you are seeking help? You follow me? So distinguishing the hats is very important. And so you need to, wherever you are, is to always know, what hat am I wearing at this time? Am I the imam who's going to facilitate khulu' or divorce? Or am I the imam that they're coming to share their problem with me and hoping and seeking that they will have some support or solution or something?
It changes.
Sorry?
The goalpost, you will be surprised that in one session will change.
I agree with you. It happens with me too. But as long as it's in your hands. It's up to you to always clarify what is the goal. It's up to you. Okay? And you can say, okay, you told me, you can just say, okay, you told me you want me to facilitate the khulu' for you, but what I'm hearing right now from you is you want us to figure out how to solve your problems. It's very simple, you know, and then they can tell you, no, I want to work on the khulu'. And then you say, okay, then we cannot go, we're not going to go into this, and that. We need to stick to this, and that. Does that help?
Yeah, it does help. It's just the mannerism, the adab that we need to portray in that particular session. One time you're being empathetic, the other time you're being very, qada'i, or, tahkimi type of. So when that happens, so that's why my initial question was, how does that make you feel? Because I'm seeing it from a different perspective, but then as a counselor, you're saying that's one of the worst questions you can ask, avoid that, So balancing that is something I guess we have to really learn, especially with the various different...
Yeah. We're not going to tap into feelings. Let me be very clear about this. Yeah. You're not going to tap into feelings if you're doing qada'. The judge doesn't sit and ask about feelings. The judge asks about evidence, bayina, okay, working out the differences. That's what the judge does. Feelings are not going to come into this equation, into that field or into that space, right? Only if you're doing the counseling part, if you're wearing the counseling part, and if that's what they're coming for, that's when the feelings come into this situation. Okay, it's 12:07, people. Yes.
One of the problems between couples, the lack of communication.
The mic is coming to you.
One of the problems between couples, the lack of communication, even if they left together for many years and they think they're communicating, which actually is not the positive way of communication. So when I paraphrase what they are saying, helping them, especially what I'm doing, like I add a little bit of justification of the action or the word the other person said, I give it in a good way. Mm-hmm. He said, like, thank you, that's what I meant. This is what I want to say. Yeah. The other person now changing. You know what? Because I'm helping them to build, good communication skills. Right. So find justification and at the same time, like in a good way for other person to understand that, now that's what contain the situation. Right. So it's very important, yes, not only just for a clarification, that's what happened, yes, but at the same time to help them having better communication.
Jazakallah khair. And on that note, okay, let's see. We did the counseling skills. We're going to move into the next segment, which is called It's Not Only Communications. So many couples, when they start coming to me, they say, we are not communicating well. That's why we're having problems, and we want to improve our communication. So I want you to be aware that it is never, ever only about communication at all. It's actually deeper than that. And so let's look at the cycle, and this is a real life cycle from the couple I mentioned earlier, the one I worked with for 16 years. Okay, so this is one of their arguments. I just want you to read through the different points of their argument. This is on page number 20. Okay, now we're gonna do an activity together just to understand why it's not only about communication. So some of you may have seen this. This is based on the work of Dan Siegel. So we're gonna model the brain, okay? So please put your hand up like this. So this area here would be the brain stem here, okay? Which is where your neck and where your brain and spine connect, okay? So right there at the top of your neck. The brain stem is responsible for the unconscious functions of your body, like heart beating, your breathing, blood flow to the limbs and stuff like that. You're not in control of that. Allah has mechanisms where the brainstem is taking care of this for you. Put your thumb across your palm like this, and this would be the limbic system, which is all the way inside the brain. You have to cut into the brain to see it. And for a long time, scientists didn't know what was the purpose of this part of the brain until they discovered functional MRIs. So when they did studies, limbic system is responsible for, and remember this, emotions and memories. What is the limbic system responsible for? Emotions and memories. And if some of you have heard about the amygdala, which is it looks like an almond shape and it's very small. The amygdala is part of the limbic system. The purpose, after scientists discovered that, the purpose of the job of the amygdala is to be the radar of the brain. The amygdala is the one that determines, are we in danger or not? You're with me or not? The amygdala is the one that starts the process of freeze, flight, or fight. Remember the states we mentioned before? So it's kind of like the guard at the top of the tower seeing danger and crying, danger, danger, danger. And when the amygdala is triggered, it connects directly with the brainstem. So when we are feeling threatened, what does happen to our heart rate? Goes up, we breathe fast, we start feeling even warm because we have blood going to the limbs. Why? Because we need to run. You get me so far? Put your fingers over your thumb like this, and this would be the cortex. The cortex is the site in your brain of all of the conscious thinking in the brain. Like you guys are seeing me and hearing me because we have centers in the cortex that allow you to do these things that you're aware of. You're with me so far? Did I lose anyone? In our American language, we say, when we get angry, we flip our lid. And what gets exposed? The what? The amygdala, the limbic system, and what are they doing? Emotions and memory. That's why couples, they come to you and they tell you, within a second, we had a fight. Because the fight is not about what's happening in the moment. The fight is about the history. And that history comes up flooding into the brain. It happens very quickly unless someone is working on themselves, okay? Then they can catch themselves and then they can pause between, okay, I'm flooded right now, I need to go and take some time out until I calm down. You're with me so far? Okay? Now, what did the Prophet ﷺ tell us to do about anger? What is the prophetic tradition? Sit down, change your position. What? Make wudu, make dhikr, استعذ من الشيطان الرجيم. لا تغضب. Sorry? Pray 2 rak'ahs. Everything that you have mentioned requires the cortex to be involved. And when the cortex is involved, it takes over the limbic system. It takes over memories and emotions. Okay? So it is very important for you as imams sitting in the counseling session with your couples to understand it's not only about communication. Okay, I know for me as a therapist, many therapists, they just focus on, oh, we're going to improve their communication skills and just teach them, how to talk to each other. That's surface level change. And that can only last just a little bit. If you want to do deeper change, we need to go back down here and understand what is the theory about life, what is the belief, because that is what's triggering the actual conflict in the end. And that needs to happen in counseling sessions with the therapist. That's work. That's a lot of work. So, is this clear? Yes? Questions about this? Sorry? Okay. So, how is it related to the circle? Thank you, Sheikh Abdurrahman. You know the boxes that have sentences in parentheses are the beliefs that each one of them had about each other. Okay, so those are beliefs, they happened in the marriage based on many interactions. But what's the base? Like if we take the wife, for example, she doesn't care nor understand, I am not good enough. Where is this coming from? It's coming from her own belief about herself and life. So she projects it on her husband. She doesn't have a good sense of herself. And then, so when he doesn't see her, okay, or hear her, she jumps into her deep wound from childhood. So then what happens in the couple fight is you have the wounds of childhood basically fighting each other and clashing with each other. Does that answer your question, Sheikh Abdurrahman? For him, it was, it's no use. She will never listen or change. I am doomed. This is a husband that grew up in a household where the father did not connect with him. And his theory for the world was, I am going to just focus on doing my things and changing things. That's what he took from his childhood, even though it was a negative, there was a negative experience there, but he took away a good positive lesson, but to extreme, which is, he keeps fighting to change her. And she's not under his control. So I hope this kind of connects the pieces for you guys. Any questions about this before I move on to the next? I know it's a lot of information. And let me tell you, at the end of the day, let's correct some misconceptions here, okay? At the end of the day, please don't leave the room expecting you're going to remember everything that you heard today. Please. Okay? That's unrealistic. Just whatever you leave the room with today is good enough. Because that's what you are ready to receive and start implementing in your life. And you're going to have the handouts. Sometimes you're going to come across something and you're going to go like, there was something related to this in the workshop. Let me go back to the handout. Or you can go and read something different. So please, some compassion, because I'm giving you so much information. Some of it is relevant to some of you, and the other information is relevant for others. Okay? That's how it works. So please, don't overburden yourself with a should. I worry when anyone has a should for themselves in their life. I should. 1, 2, 3, 4. Catch them if you can. You had a question? So let's get the mic. Where's the mic, guys? microphone behind you.
Jazakallah khairan. I just wanted to suggest maybe, I don't know if you know of or recommend perhaps a course on this topic. I think this is a really, really great and informative session. I would love to, attend like a 10-week course, for example, of this sort of material, and I think a lot of us would benefit from that. Jazakallah khairan.
So I don't know about any 10-week course. I can tell you I have a video series for couples, okay, that is available for streaming, that if you choose, you could actually watch it if you choose, okay? And you can find it through my connection and contact information. So it's actually a workshop that I did for couples over 4 weeks. And we covered a lot of the stuff that, I'm sharing with you. But my guess from what you're telling me is you want to read more, or you want to have more deeper knowledge.
Yeah, just, حتى يترسخ, all of these concepts and really just get a good grasp of everything.
So I'll tell you what they told us in counseling school. They told us you need to practice. Because, nothing is going to يترسخ until you actually are in the fire and you're actually trying to do things and you catch that, oh, I'm stuck here. And believe me, until today, I feel stuck sometimes, okay? So it's not like you reach a point where you're never stuck. We're constant students of knowledge and learning and experience. So the best way to ترسخ is to actually start practicing and recognizing where you want to gain more information and seeking more information and reading, a lot of reading, I think that's my, and you can watch the video for the marriage couple. Okay, so we're gonna move on to page 21 before break, inshallah, biznillah. So I'll just give you a minute to read through the whole page. Okay. So the last page is about common mistakes in counseling and how to handle the session if the conflict or there is like a high level of aggressiveness in the couple happening. So questions about what you read on page 21. Yes. And let's get you the mic. Okay, use.
The question was for avoiding, it says avoid giving advice. I didn't understand that.
So this list is specifically for counselors, okay? As a therapist, as a counselor, I'm not supposed to give advice, okay? And one of the imams actually mentioned that you shouldn't tell them what to do. Yani don't give them, okay, this is what you need to do in terms of solving their problem, not in terms of recommendation of how they can improve the situation, but in terms of like, don't tell them, oh yes, go ahead, you should divorce, or you should stay, that kind of thing. Okay? Yes? Yeah. Advice, I want you to reflect to yourself about how do you react when people give you advice. There are some people give you advice and you're very open to hearing from them, and others where you get resistance and you don't want to hear from them. So just keep this in mind. And then the other thing is, people deep down, they know what works for them. They really don't need us to tell them what they need to do. Our best role is to just support them understanding their situation so that they can make a better decision. Okay, other questions or comments about 21, page 21? Yes, let's get you the mic. Right there.
You mentioned about counseling taking a toll on people. Actually, there's something is called secondary trauma that a lot of counselors go through. And you also mentioned about self-care. Can you recommend practical self-care, both, on a personal level, but also resources out there? so the imams don't get burnt out when they are doing counseling?
Okay, I don't know about resources out there. Maybe you guys can share with each other, and because I don't have access to that. However, for self-care, practical, okay, physical activity is extremely important in self-care. And so if that is not part of your life, please look at how you can make it part of your life. Just to make it, to bring it home to you. When my youngest was in kindergarten, okay, I have 4, alhamdulillah, I had decided I want to walk every day, okay? As a mother, and I was a working mother at that time because I used to teach, I was like, okay, when am I going to walk? Okay, I don't have time in my day. So the only time I could do it was between waking up the children and leaving for the school. So I told them, Mom is going to wake you up, you're going to get ready and eat breakfast. I'm going to go for a walk, come back, and then we're leaving to school. So the reason why I'm sharing with you this example is, yes, I know we're all busy. Everybody's busy. But if it's an important priority for you, you will carve out the time for it. Okay? So physical activity is my number 1 recommendation. Number 2 recommendation is to be in nature. And when I'm talking about nature, I'm not necessarily talking about going to the national park, driving or something. I'm talking about what is the nature that is around your house. Just be outside the house. We live in artificial environments right now that doesn't have the real weather outside and doesn't have the, windows or light, natural light, right? We are being deprived right now. So making it a point that you go out and be in it, even if it's too warm, even if it is too cold. You know why? Because you allow your body to biologically and physiologically regulate when you are outside in those different weather. But if you stay indoors the whole time at the wonderful temperature of, 72 degrees, your body is not adjusting, is not regulating. We're losing a very powerful calming mechanism that Allah has given us. So physical activity, being out in nature, deciding if you are an introvert or an extrovert. Figuring this out is important. I am an introvert. So that means I need space by myself. It doesn't mean I'm not friendly. I'm friendly. But it means that in order to fill my cup, I need time to be by myself, even away from my family. Okay? If you're an extrovert, that means you need to put time into your connection with your friends and family because that's what fills your cup. That's also self-care. So these are important. And then you look into what really is meaningful for you. Reading or watching YouTube or whatever. Everybody has their own, their own thing. I had a wife one time who it was very important for her to be on Facebook after everyone sleeps so she can connect with her friends on Facebook. And her husband would put her down the whole time until I said to him, hey, you need to stop here. This is her self-care. You cannot judge it. Allow her to do it. This is what fills her cup. Khalas, you don't need to hold a judgment over it. So just check, and maybe you can talk to each other and see how you each, all of you, how do you take care of yourself? And you can give ideas to each other. Self-care is very important. So, yes, Imam Muhammad, and then we're going to end, and then we have, what's your name, sorry? Clay? Okay, and Imam Clay is going to say something.
2 points for the self-care. First of all, you should say no. Not always yes, accept cases this is my limit. I did like maybe 2-3 cases a week, and I cannot take more. That's enough for me. So I know this is the one thing I had to say no, because the imams will feel kind. Oh, everything's one comes to you. You're not the whole in the city. You can refer to other imams or other counselor. So you have enough. You have to say no. Second things, you have to have somebody yourself you vent to. So you're like, shaykh, somebody you trust, somebody with the knowledge, therapist. that you go and you talk without giving specific things about the cases, about anything, but just to let it go. That will be good things to help.
Very important. May Allah bless you. And Imam Clay, please, he wants to share a
Assalamu
request
alaikum
with you.
warahmatullahi
Yeah.
wabarakatuh. So when I'm asked to do marriage counseling, I do by having what I call four-party talks. Most of marriage counseling is typically three people, the husband, the wife, and the counselor. I try to do four-party talks based on Nisa verse 35, where it talks about bring somebody from her tribe, bring somebody from his tribe. So we come to marriage counseling, my wife and I, and we ask the couple, would you like my wife to side with you, or would you like me to side with you? And we choose sides, so that if there's something that's nominal, could go either way, we can talk about it from the perspective, and somebody can feel like they have somebody in the room that's on their side a little bit. And this style of four-party talks has been useful to us, and we've had good results from it. My question for the group is, has anybody used this style of four-party talks instead of three-party talks for marriage counseling? And is there any basis for it in, have any classical scholars expanded on this concept of four-party talks in marriage counseling in any of the classical works in Islam? And if you have seen written literature, either academic or current academic or classical works, would you come see me during the break, and we can chat a little bit about this idea of four-party talks versus three-party talks. Jazakallahu khairan. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Jazakallah khair. Okay, Jazakumullah khair, all of you. So we're lunch right now and prayer. Inshallah. Okay, now comments and questions about the Gottman's 5 hours. Yes, Sheikh Faqih. How well does it work? Okay, I will tell you from me, Noha, as in my own personal life, okay, we do not do weekly dates, my husband and I. Does this mean I don't have a good relationship or a good marriage? I have a good marriage. Okay, I'm just saying, okay, this is what he is suggesting. And maybe you can share this with your couples just to give them ideas. It doesn't mean that if they are not happening, these are not happening, then the relationship is doomed or, something is wrong. Yeah? Okay. Questions, comments about the Gottman 5? The main spirit of this is for the couple to connect. Just for the couple to figure out how can they connect. And every couple can find their own unique way of connecting. So one of the ways my husband and I, for example, connect is we try to walk every day in the morning together. Okay? Many times he doesn't walk with me because he likes to go back to sleep after Fajr. And I walk in the morning. Okay, he comes after work and he wants to go for a walk. Sometimes I go with him, sometimes I don't go with him. Okay? But every couple has to find their way of connecting. That's the main point from this. Any comments, questions about this before we move on? Sheikh Abdul Rahman?
How is it going to relate to the counseling, the people that come to us?
If you have a couple that is wanting to work on their marriage, this page is part of the couples counseling handouts that you're going to get. So you can, for example, copy this page and give it to them and say, these are just some ideas on how you guys can connect, and you emphasize to them that it's not a script here. They can figure out how they can do it in their own way. But notice what I have in the beginning of the page. I have what's the value of a good marriage, and I have what's the secrets of a long-standing marriage. And my goal from having these on this page is to change perception. Because when they are coming to you, they're coming thinking that maybe this marriage is not working for me, maybe I should exit, right? So just having them value that being married is actually something worthwhile. Okay? Yeah. Brother, now you can tell us and comment on whatever you wanted to comment. Here you go.
Page 15.
Okay.
So yeah, on page 15,
I know it's probably not like, to some of you guys, not that big of deal, maybe, I don't know, or off the topic, but the serenity prayer, I don't know, like this is, do we really need to cite verses from the Bible in this kind of paper?
So this is not from the Bible.
It's not?
No. This is he's a philosopher, okay? And that was his, he has it as God grant me. I changed it to Allah grant me. Okay?
Okay.
And I feel comfortable citing from other sources. I don't have a problem with this, but each one of you can decide what you want to do.
Allahu Alam. I'm just saying, like.
No, I'm glad you asked this question.
Yeah, that's
I'll tell you the story.
Pointing out, that's all.
Sorry?
I just pointed out to it. I'm not like.
No. Jazakallah khair.
Question.
And it's good to clarify. It's not in the Bible. This is not a Bible verse. Then I also want to share with you. This verse was instrumental for me in my life. I remember to this day the first time I saw this statement. I was maybe 21 years old, 22 years old in Amman, Jordan, in one store in Amman, and there was a plaque that had this. And I remember reading it and standing, and I'm like, wow, this is a revelation. And it is so powerful. If you really look at how deep it is, okay, it will change how you lead your life. So that's why I use it a lot in my work. Okay? Yes? Sheikh Faqih?
With regards to these, let's say the 5 magic hours, do the couple have to agree on them? Or let's say if you're counseling one of them, can you suggest this for them to do it in a very settled way? So one person takes the lead and does it, because sometimes when people try to agree on something, they may disagree on, no, I don't like. So would you recommend it to someone who just wants to implement this gradually without having to really tell the other person, okay, we're going to be doing 5 hours and so on?
Do anything that works. Okay, and for example, you as an imam in the session, or the spouse who's working with you, you're more experts on the situation. Like me as a counselor, I don't know all the details. So just try different things. Go with your intuition. And the more you experience things, the more you're going to be on point. Yani, I hope that answered. Yes? Okay. طيب. Are we ready to move on? Yes, let's give you to go through it. Okay, so inshallah we'll have time, hopefully, but let's see. Okay, yes? Mm-hmm.
So, this is just the couples, like sometimes the couple will they will have problems regarding other people involved. Can we work it out like with couples coming and having issues to deal with their kids, or with their, the husband having his in-laws causing a problem for the wife?
Mm-hmm.
Like we could do that, apply this to, or
the 5 magic hours, you mean?
No, just generally, just the session.
So
like whatever we're learning now, I'm just like sometimes one of the couples coming with issues. One of them agreeing, one of them disagreeing. For example, having the in-laws in their house, or their kids, like away, being distant from Islam in the West. So
okay, you're talking about the types of problems that are coming into your session.
Right.
No, very good. And that's actually the last segment of the day,
alhamdulillah,
which is bringing things to life. Which is, we're going to break out into groups. Each one of you is responsible for one of these issues. Like, how would you handle this issue if it comes up in your session? And then we're going to share together. Good? Okay, so that finishes the handout. And as I told you, you will get, inshallah, by email, a couple handout that you can share with your couples. You don't have to share the whole thing. You can share different pieces from the handout.